Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show, the show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show, episode 45 for November 2020. My name is Jonathan Leung, the producer, director, and editor of the Arcade Repair Tips video series, and joining me today, as always, via Skype, apparently from a Miss Pac-Man manufacturing facility, is Mr. Tim Peterson, Mr. Arcade Repair Tips. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good, Jonathan. How are you?
I am good. Now, I don't know whether to title this what we titled it or to call it the post-election counseling session, Tim. I was thinking about giving that title, but we won't be talking much about that, maybe in the after show. But really what we're going to be talking about is arcade repair, so we're so glad you guys are here with us tonight. Now, Tim, before we get started, we do want to remind everyone about our live chat. Tim, it is already lively up in there tonight. We are very appreciative to everybody who will be joining us on the show tonight. It sounds like we've got a really good crowd already, so I'm super excited about you guys being here, so thanks for that. And remember, you can leave your comments, your questions, and suggestions in the live chat for us. We'll try to get to those as we can. But Tim, before we get into any questions or anything, how are you? Obviously, like I said, you're at a Miss Pac-Man manufacturing facility, or that's what it looks like anyway. But how are things going for Mr. Arcade Repair Tips this month?
Oh, good. I had a good Halloween, although I was kind of disappointed. You know, we're in our new house. We didn't get a lot of trick-or-treaters. But, you know, we had a good Halloween, and we finished up one project bill. That's why I chose the factory today, because I have been, I put another game together today, a stand-up, that we cut out and made out of wood. It's getting to be kind of fun, because kind of got it down how we can do it, and put one together pretty fast now. In about 3 hours, we went from nothing, buying wood at Home Depot, to having a stand-up arcade game.
And Tim, I think that's pretty impressive. I mean, now you guys have built a lot of cabinets in the past. It's not like these are the only cabinets you've built, so obviously you've learned a lot, but I think getting it down to 3 hours is pretty quick in my opinion.
Yeah, from the time we went to Home Depot, took three big pieces of MDF to make one cabinet, but we kind of have it down what we can cut out of one piece, and then that includes the routing for the T-molding and everything. And we had another game that we kind of used as a template, so we made it pretty fast, you know, kind of drawing it out and stuff real quick, and then just jigsawing and getting after it. But it was kind of a fun day, so I chose the factory background because I feel like, you know, we had the factory going today. It was a little more streamlined.
Absolutely. Now, Tim, we're going to see one of your new designs coming up here in the Tim's Tech Tip section. But last month, you kind of debuted your initial version that looked like the Miss Pac-Man cabinets, and it sounds like you guys are having a pretty high demand for those. But we're going to show off a different cabinet here in your Tech Tip section tonight, correct?
Yeah.
So I hope you guys all stay tuned for that. It's very impressive, Tim. I got to see it up close and personal. I was very impressed with the craftsmanship and the work on it, so hopefully you guys are too. So we'll be debuting that here in a bit, so stay tuned for that. Now, Tim, before we get into anything else, I'm also going to go to the live chat and see who all is here. We've got quite a few. Of course, Louie, our Facebook and YouTube moderator, is here. Louie, thanks for being here. He always keeps things in order in the live chat for us, Tim. Hard for me to do that and produce the show and do all the things. So thank you, Louie, for being here. The Real Hammer Billy Lee is here tonight. He says hello. Mr. Dwayne79 is here tonight. Gregory Sears is here tonight. Geeklight08 is here tonight. We got Greg here tonight. We got Danny here tonight, Tim. And Mr. Dwayne79 said, did we see the Arcade 1-Up Outrun cabinet, Tim? And I didn't put that on the outline, but why don't we just go ahead and get your thoughts? What do you think of the Arcade 1-Up sit-down Outrun cabinet?
You know, it's not too bad. I don't know that... Yeah, as far as the arcade 1-Ups, you know, we have had mixed reviews on them and stuff, but it's kind of cool, especially for that era of game. You know, I know some people said, well, they enjoyed the real arcade feel. I don't know that you're going to get a lot more than that from. I think it's still pretty cool for $500. I think they got the price right about right.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, you're still getting a sit-down cabinet, Tim. It's a little bit different, but obviously they kind of tried this with the Star Wars, and I think it worked out really well for them. So I hope the Outrun is just as much of a success as that was. So Let's see who else we got here. Andres Frailberg is here, Tim. We got, let's see, we have the Regzer Show is here. Joe DeLong is here. So many, Tim. Mr. Silverball Mania is here. He says hello from the Buckeye State. So there we go, Tim. We got a lot of people in the live chat. We're so glad to have you guys all here. Tim, this may be our biggest crowd ever. So thank you guys for joining us.
Election coverage, John. They needed a break.
You know what? I need a break too. This is why we're doing this, I feel like. I think that everybody's been glued to their sets here in the United States for a while since all the voting went down, just trying to figure out who's going to win this thing. And Tim, we still don't know, and that was Tuesday. So, but I'm not going to get into that too much. Maybe in the after show. So if you guys want to hear more about that, we'll talk about that in the after show, right, Tim?
Right.
Let's keep
We're here to talk about making arcade great again.
Exactly, correct. We're here to talk about that, or to talk about arcade repair at least. So Wasteland Warrior's here too, Tim, from Indiana. So we have people from all over the United States. Tim, I was thinking, people are making those maps of like different things, like, to kind of mimic the electoral maps that we've seen. I was thinking about making a map from like how many questions have we gotten from each state, because I think a lot of people would be interested in that, but I was too lazy to do it before the show. So I mean, it is what it is.
It'll probably take a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. But we could probably do it. I think I could break it down if I just did searches for each individual state, like in my emails or something like that. We could probably get them. But Tim, I can almost bet you we've gotten a question from every state. The only two I think that'd be the toughest would be Alaska and Hawaii, and I believe we have questions from them in the past. So I'll have to do that at some point. Maybe it'll be a fun thing to do. But Tim, let's just go ahead.
Saying, if we had won the electoral votes for each of them states, we'd be in pretty good shape.
I think it would have been a clean sweep, Tim, and nobody's gotten that as far as I know ever. So there you go. But anyway, let's see. We have Andre says, "What about the one-up virtual pinball and other companies announcing virtual pinball?" So Tim, again, something we didn't put on the outline, but what do you think about some of the virtual pinball products that are coming out?
Well, when till we ever played one, we didn't really see the point. And we played a few before that we liked, so I don't see that. Yeah, I see that there's a market for it, especially with kids and stuff. I think that they'll probably do pretty good because, face it, the cost of a real pinball machine is really expensive right now, and it does allow you to kind of relive some of the pinball magic, although it's definitely not the same.
Yeah, and that's it, Tim. But Arcade 1-Up has theirs. That's probably the one I'm the most interested in, and that's the Attack from Mars one. Have you seen that one? And it comes with a lot of classic Williams games on it, and there's a lot of people who can experience these games for the first time, maybe for the first time in just a long time. But if I was out there in the market for one, it's $500 to $600 for that virtual pinball machine, Tim. For the titles you get, it seems like a really good deal.
Yeah. I think
it's not a real pinball machine, okay? But for that price, you don't care, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. So I still think you're going to play the games. You're going to get the somewhat of the experience. You won't get the physicalness that you get with like a traditional pinball machine. But for most people at that price range, I think they'll be happy with it. So
yeah, but it may cause you also, kind of like Maine did for us, it may make you want to buy that pinball after you play it virtually for a while. Then you say, man, I really would like to get a black hole or whatever the game is. Based on I'm enjoying it here, I know I would enjoy it on the real pinball machine.
Absolutely. So this could, we talked about Arcade 1-Up being kind of the quote-unquote gateway drug to being like to collecting full-size arcade games. These virtual pinball machines may be that gateway drug to owning a real one eventually. But Tim, like you mentioned, I mean, you're talking about $600 versus $6,000 for a brand new pinball machine. It's still a big step up to get a new one.
Yeah.
So that's something to always keep in mind. But the 1-Up also has the, and Andres mentioned this too, has the nudge, tilt, and haptic feedback, which is very cool, but still, it's very hard to really emulate the visceralness of a pinball machine, if that makes sense. The physicality of it, you really can't get that across. Even with haptic feedback, it doesn't give you the same. And Tim, the biggest fault with virtual pinball is that the ball is predictable. When I play virtual pinball, you know what I'm saying? Like it bounces, the physics are not as real as what you get in a real pinball machine. And of course, anybody who's played multiple versions of the same machine will tell you each machine plays differently, which is always something that was cool to me. Is like you can play, I have a Monopoly, I've played several Monopolies, and Tim, it seems like, they play close, but no two play exactly the same. There's always little things with each one that are kind of a little bit different, which is always fun to figure out, so.
I can see that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think it's great, though. Price range is in the same price range as what you're getting for the other Arcade 1-Up products, and I think there are going to be a lot of people who buy these things who will be very happy with them. Toy Shock had theirs out there for a while, Tim. It seems like they're doing pretty good with it. So, people are buying Arcade 1-Up, the arcade mini units, and they're happy with them. People are going to buy these things, and they're going to be happy with them, too. So, and hey, heck, I may end up with one if they hit the clearance rack at some point, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. Well, Tim, let's go ahead and get into our outline for this episode. Now, the first thing we have here, Tim, is not a question, but a follow-up from John, who sent in a question about the Street Fighter 2 marquee lights, if you remember. You remember that one, Tim?
I do remember that.
So I'm going to go ahead and throw his response up here, Tim. But he says, I just wanted to write in and say thank you for responding to my question. I wanted to update you with a little background. I just started restoring an arcade with no previous knowledge of working with one before. I ended up using the original marquee light because I wasn't confident putting the new one in. I put the same question and pictures up on Reddit, and the internet ripped me a new one because of my lack of knowledge. I just wanted to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for not only answering my question on the show, but for being kind and patient with me. Thanks again. You earned a lifelong fan. Now, Tim, that is what we try to do here at Arcade Repair Tips, correct?
Correct. Everybody started somewhere. We don't want to make anybody feel there is no such thing as a dumb question.
Exactly. And, people may notice that we get a lot of the same question, even though it may be about a different game or whatever. It seems like we get a lot of similar monitor questions or a lot of similar power supply questions, and we'll cover them again. But the reason why, Tim, is that a lot of people haven't gone through our extensive back catalog of stuff to know exactly what we said in the past. And so, we're getting these questions in from you guys, every month they come in. And so we just want to make sure that we cover those with you. And even if it's the first time we've answered a question like yours, or if it's the 107th, we want to treat you the same way each time, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard, and I understand, like, people get frustrated with, with newbies sometimes because it's like, their knowledge level may be way up here and they don't have a good way of explaining it to them. But here we're always striving to try to explain it to the lowest beginner level guy, because we want to make sure that if he understands it, then everybody up the chain will understand that too. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced or expert or wherever you're at. If we can get the basic guy, the beginner guy, to somewhat understand what's going on, then once you move up the ladder, you get to expert, then you'll really know what's going on. And so by kind of going with that beginner intermediate level explanation of things, it really helps, I think, people get into the hobby, and that's what we want to encourage, right, Tim?
Yeah. John, I don't know, have I ever told you about my Phillips screwdriver story?
No, maybe, but it's been a while, so.
Well, I know I haven't told everybody in the audience, so if you'll give me just a minute, I got a really good story. One time I was working on a game when I was at Chuck E. Cheese, and I was up under the game, and I needed a Phillips. So I caught a guy. He was a new guy. He was just walking by, and I won't throw him under the bus and tell his name or anything, but I said, hey, can you go get me a Phillips screwdriver, please? And he said, yeah, I'll be right back. Well, I didn't want to come out of the game because I was up under it, so I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. About 10 minutes go by. And I thought, man, what in the world, Finally, this guy comes back. Then I told him, I said, man, what is taking you so long? He said, I'm sorry, Mr. Peterson. I've asked everybody, and there's nobody named Philip here. So I got to talking to him and realized he really had no idea. He'd never heard that term in his life. So I said, you know what? I'm going to bring you in on a Thursday morning. I want to have you clean some games. And I went through the toolbox with him, and I showed him what a Phillips screwdriver was, showed him what nut drivers, showed him what different tools we used. It wasn't long. He picked up a lot of things. And today, Jonathan, he has been a technician for Chuck E. Cheese probably for about 7 or 8 years, and has his own store. He works on automobiles on the side and stuff. So you never know what that person could end up being. And I've even called, and he's even helped me before on another issue because he's very computer smart and some things like that. The newer style games, he's very good at programming and things like that. So you see what I'm saying? It's like, just because you have that knowledge and nobody's ever showed you, or you had the fortunate that somebody taught you at a young age, don't mistake that somebody else, just because they don't know, they may have something they can teach you also. So not only should you be a teacher, you should also be trainable and teachable yourself.
Absolutely, Tim. And I mean, we take that for granted. Obviously, Tim, when I was growing up, my dad showed me what all the tools were, but not everybody, some people may not grow up with a dad. Some people may just not grow up with a dad that's very, very tool savvy, right? I mean, that could be it as well. So, I mean, you may not ever be exposed to that information. If you're never exposed to it, then obviously you don't know what a Phillips head screwdriver is. But yeah, that's what it comes down to, Tim. We don't know where everybody is individually on their skill level, but we try to help out everybody on that beginner to intermediate level, so that we kind of break it down for them, so that it doesn't matter if they're more advanced than that. At least that way they have an understanding of basically what's going on in most cases. So okay, Tim, well, let's go ahead and get into the questions for this month. And the first one we have is from Matt. So I'll go ahead and throw his question up here. And he says, I have a Time Crisis 3 that has 2 working CPUs with everything plugged in and set up. However, the settings menu test tree won't work. I have no way to get to the gun calibration, sound, or free play options. Any help is greatly appreciated. Thank you, Matt from Atlanta, Georgia. So, Tim, we have Matt here from Atlanta, Georgia. He has a Time Crisis 3, which is a very popular gun game, Tim. A lot of people love Time Crisis, myself included in that. And so he's wondering how to get to his settings test menu tree. It seems like he's having a hard time. He's trying maybe to hit the button on the inside, and it's just not working. What advice do you have for Matt with his Time Crisis 3?
Well, a lot of these were kits and stuff, but we looked at the manual for the game. It looked like inside of most of their coin doors, you should see a set of switches and stuff, and one of them would say test. In that, you should switch to the on position. You may need to do that and then turn the game on, kind of like the 60-in-1. Doesn't always go right into the settings just because you flipped it on. I'm not sure about that. But from there, you should be able to navigate and go through some of the settings. The problem is a lot of times when those switches aren't working, that either the wiring on the back side of the switch has come undone, or the ground wire has a break in the chain somewhere. So you may need to get your meter out. Or in the worst case scenario, John, we have seen lazy operators that were so quick to get the game up, they never installed a coin or a test switch. So he's going to need to learn how to read his test settings and stuff, but it should be JAMMA, so that shouldn't be too difficult to find, and track it back if he needs to. But hopefully it's just something really simple like a bad wire, or maybe he's not hitting the test switch, flipping it over to get into his settings. I'm not sure.
Now, Tim, one of the things I've noticed about these, and for the record, Time Crisis 3, I think most of the times is in a dedicated cabinet. I don't think I've seen a kit for it. And so it's probably not a operator wiring issue, but it does seem like manufacturers use the flimsiest wires on these coin doors, or like the coin door test switches and things. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, it seems like the smallest gauge, little tiny wire. That is correct.
It's like the cheapest things that they could get away with, and I can't tell you how many times that wiring has had issues on that little inside panel inside the coin door, Tim. I think we've seen that tons of times. Not only that, they tend to use like the cheapest buttons and switches that they can find for that.
Right, I have seen many. There's just a lot of times a little bitty switch, and you get somebody going in there and hitting it real hard, trying to get a lot of credits or something. They're supposed to be a momentary switch. And a lot of them do break, or they come unscrewed or fall down in the bottom of the game or whatever. It's very likely that something like that could happen.
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and show the slide, Tim. You already talked about a lot of this stuff, but according to the manual for the game, the test switch should be located inside the coin door, of course. When you slide the test switch to the on position, the test menu screen should be displayed on the monitor. Tim, you mentioned that you may have to restart the game. The manual says as soon as you switch it, it should go into test mode. So there shouldn't be any kind of delay. There's no restart on that on this one. So, and then it says from there, you can use the select up and down switch to navigate the menu, which you'll see in the picture here. Now, if nothing happens when the test switch is in the on position, you need to check that wiring. Like what you're talking about, Tim, this is some of the flimsiest wiring in the entire arcade game, it seems like, that we see on these inside coin door panels. So check the wiring, make sure that you're getting your ground wires are connected properly, and that the switch is connected properly to your harness or to your board. Tim, I'm not 100% sure that this is JAMMA, because it's been newer games like this sometimes just have an independent harness. I didn't look at the manual to see if it was JAMMA, so it may just have independent harnesses. And knowing Namco with games like this, it may not be JAMMA. So I will say that. So you do need to make sure, I was about to say, you do need to make sure that you just trace it back from whatever harness you're using. Find where the test switch wire is on that harness and then trace it all the way to the actual test switch on the panel to make sure that you're getting a good connection there. And to make sure that your ground wires all check out. You can use the continuity test on your meter, like this says, to make sure that it is connected properly. You can also use continuity on the switch itself, right, Tim? So to make sure the switch is not bad.
For sure, or sometimes just they get gunked up or something, they're just not quite clicking over like they should.
Exactly. So, I mean, very common. Like I said, it seems like they use the cheapest switches and buttons on these inside coin door panels that they can get away with, and then the wiring is as flimsy as all get out. So you definitely need to check the switches and the buttons, make sure they're working properly, and then check all the wiring back to your harness to make sure everything's connected properly. And if you do that, Tim, I think you will be in good shape. Very common issue for sure, right, Tim?
Yeah.
So any other advice from Matt before we move on?
No, I don't think so, Matt. Let us know what you find out, though, because, like I said, it could be a combination of things.
Absolutely. So, but again, I think switches, wiring, and just making sure that everything's connected properly is going to go a long way to solving this problem. So, Matt, hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting into the test menu of your Time Crisis 3 arcade unit. Okay, Tim, we've got a couple of questions here in the live chat, so I'm going to go ahead and throw those to you real quick. Has anyone tried Arcade Jason's Position PCB for pole position? Now, Tim, I think I actually sent you a post to this, correct?
Yeah, you did, because we've always had a lot of troubles with those games in the past, and we're pretty excited. Of course, we don't have one at this moment, but we've kind of shied away even from having pole positions because they're such a pain to keep up and going.
Yeah. So the cool thing about this board, as I understand it, Tim, is that it plays pole position 1 and 2, and it plays it in a Raspberry Pi style board, but the board also has the original harness connectors for pole position, which is great, which means it's basically a plug-and-play solution, which is fantastic. But, I mean, I think it is emulation still, though, Tim, but, we've gotten to a point with emulation that, especially for classic games, it's pretty spot on.
Yeah, it's pretty close. So, no, we haven't done it, but I'd love to hear some feedback if anybody in the chat room or anybody else has.
Exactly. So, and it seems like several people have ordered them. Greg mentions that his has not arrived yet, Tim. So it does sound like several people have ordered them already. And for those who have gotten them, we'd love to hear what you guys think about them, because I think it's awesome. As Tim mentioned, pole position is one of those games that's really hard to keep working. There's a lot of mods you can do to the board to kind of bulletproof it and things. But, Tim, even with those mods, you can still have issues, correct?
Yeah. Now it's giving me some hope. Maybe in my next game build, I'll be able to sit down pole position.
So now I may be mistaken, but wasn't your first full-size arcade unit that you owned a pole position?
The very first game I ever bought was a pole position one.
I remember it. So it was a nice one. So, but yeah, it was a stand-up unit. You had a sit-down too at one point.
Yes, I did.
And I think we have pictures of it somewhere. But yeah, you had both of them at one point. But man, it's a fun game. It's when it came out, Tim, I don't know if there's really anything else like it graphic-wise. It definitely blew people away.
Yeah, it was really hot at the time in the arcade. But a quick game too, because it didn't last long.
That's right, exactly. So, but I'm glad to hear that people are obviously taking steps to restore these things, Tim. And I keep seeing these posts where people are re-engineering custom chips. I don't know if you've seen a lot of these, but there's a lot of people who are putting efforts into re-engineering some of these custom chips that we can't get anymore. And all I can say is God bless you people, because we need to keep these games running as long as possible. And the more custom chips that we can find replacements for, that we can create replacements for, the more boards that are going to be saved going forward. And so, Tim, there's a lot of these chips you just can't get anymore. And so finding people who are creating replacement custom chips for these things is just awesome. So thank you for all the work you do if you're out there working on that kind of stuff. So, okay, Tim, I have a question from Joe real quick. He says, I recently obtained a Tato Space Invaders Cabaret. Unfortunately, the CRT tube is shot. I have blue sparks in the neck. Any idea where I could find one? So, Tim, it does sound like his tube may be shorted, correct?
Yeah. And that's the color one or the black one?
He just says Space Invaders. He doesn't specify which type of Space Invaders it is. I'm going to assume black and white, but I'm not for sure.
It's a Cabaret. That's the Wells Gardner one. It's probably repairable. I don't know that you can. They're getting pretty rare.
Well, I was going to say even with like the blue sparking inside the neck, you think it would be repairable?
Well, it depends on where all it's coming from. That inside the neck doesn't necessarily mean that it's his neck or his tube. It could be that's something getting feedback from his monitor.
Okay. So
I would definitely look into trying to repair it.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
It's probably going to be about the best place to find
Yeah, I was
one.
about to say. I mean, if it's a black and white, that's kind of clueless on me. I haven't worked on too many of those, and you probably have more experience than I do, Tim, as far as that goes. And so, if you think it's repairable, that's great. I'm hesitant to say that, but I don't know if he could probably do a replacement LCD. I wouldn't recommend that though. I think if you can repair the current monitor, that'd be the way to go. But and I know there's some black and white replacement, or not replacement, but there's some good repair guides on black and white raster monitors out there, Tim, that I've seen, specifically with Space Invaders, because that seems like there's a lot of them out there, and there are people who have documented that. And I can't think of any websites in particular that have those guides, but if I think of one, I'll post it, or we'll send it to you, Joe. But yeah, I mean, if you can repair it, that'd be the way to go. But if you may have a shorted tube, it's very possible. And if that's the case, the only way you're going to be able to fix it is by going with a tube replacement. So let's see what else we got here, Tim. Danny says, I got a Final Lap 2 double sit-down arcade. I was wondering if I go to test mode, if I could change how many laps you race. Not sure on that one, Tim. So you'll have to check the manual for that, Danny, to see if it has that modification in the settings for it. Because some games, Tim, that's kind of a finite thing, and some games allow you to modify it, correct?
Yeah.
So
I remember on Final Lap 2. I don't remember.
We've worked on several Final Lap 2s, but I've never really gotten into the test mode to change
know.
anything. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, don't really know. Like I said, manual would tell you for sure, so definitely consult the manual on that and see what it says.
Like maybe you just changed the time or something, but I don't remember exactly correct.
There you go. So we'll leave it at that, Danny. Check the manual and see if it's got that setting in there. With Namco, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if it did, Tim, because Namco, it seems like they give you a lot of good settings in those test menus. So let's see. Wasteland Warrior, Arcade Jason is always asking the committee for suggestions on new projects, so check him out on YouTube. Yeah, Arcade Jason does some great work, guys. If you're not checking out his channel, you should, especially if you're fans of arcade repair stuff, because he does a lot of great stuff over there. So and thank him again for making the pie position board. I think it's awesome. Let's see what else we have. And Joe did confirm black and white on that, Tim.
Yeah, it's black and white. It should be a 13-inch, too, because he said it was a cabaret
Correct.
version.
It's probably the 13-inch. That's what we mostly see in cabarets. So, but there are some repair guides for those, Tim, like you mentioned. And if I find them, we can post them in the show notes below for the video here, Joe. So if I find those, we'll let you know. Let's see. And Greg says try a rejuvenation. And Tim, if it is a short or something, a rejuvenation may help it, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that black and white monitor, but it might.
You should be able to find. It's going to need a socket adapter. That's probably an uncommon one, right, Tim? And that's going to be the trick.
Wondering about.
Yeah, that's going to be the trick. Is finding the socket adapter for it. If you can find that, you should be in good shape. Let's see. Okay. I'm just trying to catch up on it. Oh, Headless Horseman's here. He says hello. And Louis just met. People were asking where to send your arcade chassis off to for repair. We do have a lot of places on our resources page, guys. Andre says P&L. We do recommend P&L, right, Tim? P&L seems to be the cheapest, but they don't always do they don't do a full. What do you call it? What do we call it when we replace everything?
Yeah, they don't do the shotgun approach. They pretty much fix what the problem is, and that's it. They don't do a full cap kit.
Right, exactly. So,
which is fine if that's all you need, or you want to get it working.
A rebuild. That was what I was thinking of. Yeah, P&L's not gonna do a full rebuild on your monitor chassis. They're gonna fix the one problem and send it back to you. They're usually cheaper as far as repairs go, but you're gonna get it back basically in the same shape it was. And if there are other components that fail, you'll have to send it back in. So that's something to keep in mind. Eugene Mosh, somebody mentioned in the Arcade Help group. Sure, that he's a good guy to send it to. Paul Jure, Tim, who is always a lot of times in our live chat and also sends in a lot of videos. He does very good work. So if you're looking for somebody, I think it's Jure Monitors is his website, something like that. You may look him up. He's good too. But there's a lot of great repair people. And Tim, we have used Chad at Arcade Cup for all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, Chad's not always the cheapest, to be honest. But I've never had any problems when I got it back. It's always been well done.
Yeah, and Tim, I think Rexer's show sent an email in today, and he said he was using Sharp Image, which we've used Sharp Image before in the past for repairs as well, out of Las Vegas, and they are out of Nevada. I don't know if it's Las Vegas for sure, but out of Nevada, we've shipped off chassis to them. They fixed them, so I mean, there's still a lot of good monitor repair people out there if you need help with that. So. Let's see what else. Joe says, I have a Gorf with a Wells Gunner 4600 that occasionally has a vertical stripe, Tim. Now, Joe, when we're saying vertical stripe, are we talking about like a single vertical stripe? Or are we talking about like little zigzaggy lines? What are we talking about as far as vertical stripe, I guess is the question. So let us know and we'll try to answer that question a little bit better, right, Tim?
Yeah, is he talking about just a one shade dark down the middle or sideways, or is it collapsing and then going back?
Exactly. That's what we want to know. So are you like one straight vertical stripe line down the middle? Or are you getting kind of like these zigzaggy lines that are kind of vertical stripes that kind of look like that? That's really what we need to know. So let us know, and we'll come back to that one, Tim. Oh, he says a single line. So coming back to that, so he's having collapse.
Yeah.
So so Joe, we have an entire post on repairing monitor collapse issues, and it features our good friend Michael, who unfortunately Tim is not going to be doing a Michael's Minute this month because he's out of his state and our state working on things. Exactly, he's working. He's actually been out of work for a while because he works oil field stuff, Tim, and obviously that slowed down for a bit, but he got called back, and so we're thankful that he got called back, but unfortunately Michael is out of pocket for this month, so hopefully we can get a video from him next month, but we're just glad that he's back working again and getting stuff done, and hopefully we can get a Michael's Minute soon. But again, Joe, check out our video and post on repairing monitor collapse issues. Michael does an excellent job of explaining exactly what causes that. We talk about the different types of collapse, we talk about vertical, we talk about horizontal collapse, the differences, and what we see most often. That video and post should help you out quite a bit. So check that out, and please let us know if you have any additional questions once you've done that. Okay, I think we're caught up, Tim. So let us continue on with our outline, and the next question we have is from David. And David says, hello, I was wondering if you had some ideas on a problem I've been having. I received an original Donkey Kong arcade cabinet for my 40th birthday. Upon purchasing, I had the board recapped and the flyback replaced as the original owner suggested those repairs. I am not sure it did the trick. My monitor is very blurry for the first 15 minutes on boot, and increasingly as of late. Once it has been booted for a period of time, it is sharp, clear, and in focus. I read that potentially the focus pot might be goofy, so I since worked the pot back and forth. I have not cleaned it, need to get the spray, or had it replaced, a bit beyond my skill. Any other thoughts that might be the culprit? Thanks in advance, David. So Tim, I noticed when I read this email that David basically mentions the first two things that we would recommend for this repair right off the bat, right? He mentions that he already did a cap kit, he already did the flyback replacement. So Tim, we have to go beyond that now. So what do you think's going on with David's monitor? Now, this is a Donkey Kong, so pretty darn sure it's a Sanyo 20Z EZ in there that we're dealing with. So with that in mind, Tim, what other advice would you give to David beyond the standard cap kit and flyback replacement for a slow focusing monitor?
Well, you said the key word, standard cap kit, doesn't always come with all the caps. And sometimes it's just the filter cap or something, because the way he describes it is that after 15 minutes, once it gets warm, then it's fine. Now, he did mention that there's a focus pot and that, he needs to do some cleaning and stuff, so he may want to touch up the solder in there, or he could have a bad pot there, but sounds like he's done pretty much what we'd expect him to do. The only thing may be some of the caps that didn't come with his kit may need to be replaced. And then it's more rare, but I would look at the hot just in case that it could cause something like that. It's not getting the voltage through fast enough. It's not really throwing the charge out there like it needs to. It's taking a while to warm up, and I guess it's not a horrible deal to have to deal with but to wait 15 minutes seems like a long time. Definitely something else is still not working or failing in that area. So I would probably change the hot out if nothing else works.
Now, Tim, obviously, it seems like tube issues could be part of this as well, correct?
Could be a rejuvenation that he needs to do, maybe a short, like you're saying. just taking a while for it to get just out of focus and stuff. Definitely wouldn't hurt at this point either.
Sounds good. Now, Tim, David's actually in the live chat tonight. So, hi, David. Thanks for sending in your question. And, hey, awesome that you got a Donkey Kong for your 40th birthday, might I add. I think that's the best 40th birthday present you could get, Tim. I can't think of anything better except maybe a Ferrari. But, or a Tesla or something. But beyond that, Tim, I can't think of too many 40th birthday presents that are as good as the Donkey Kong cabinet, correct?
Yeah, I don't know if his wife or his buddies or who pitched in on that one, but that sounds like a cool present, all right?
Absolutely. So now David asked if we got his follow-up email. I did. We did get your follow-up email, and I did read through it. And so, basically, though, we were going to say the same thing even with the additional information, but we do thank you for sending that in because it did give us a little bit more to go on. But Tim kind of hit a lot of the high points here that I think we were going to cover. And so you did, like we mentioned up front, the first two things that we'd recommend for this, cap kit flyback replacement. Yeah. But, Michael has said this several times. Tim, you just said it. Cap kits don't always come with all the caps you need. Sometimes cap kits just come with the most common caps. And so wherever you get your cap kit from makes a lot of difference. And Tim, we a lot of times recommend Syracuse Semiconductor as one of our cap kit suppliers. Syracuse Semiconductor has basically a cap kit that's the common caps and a cap kit with every cap. They literally sell two kits for every chassis. And so, it's like, do you do the common kit or do you get the whole kit? It really depends on, what your problem is. But Tim, you'd be surprised how many times you order a cap kit and it's just the problem is a different cap, correct?
Yeah, especially like I said, those filter caps. And the filter caps are basically, in layman's terms, real tiny ones, the little bitty ones. So you don't always get those. And that's where I would draw a little attention to, hopefully.
Exactly. So make sure that you go through and see which caps have been replaced. Tim, a lot of times you can tell if a cap's been replaced, as to how much dirt and things it has on it. Especially with a game like Donkey Kong, you can probably tell like which ones were replaced and which ones weren't. And if you see any caps that weren't, especially if they're in the power supply section, Tim, right? You may go through and replace those just to be sure that that they're good. Because Tim, a lot of times a cap that's just starting to die, it takes a little bit longer for it to let that voltage out that it needs, and that can cause that blurring that you're talking about, correct?
Right.
So the other thing that you mentioned, Tim, is horizontal output transistor. Tim, you mentioned it was rare. I will second that as well. This is rare. It's rare that we see the horizontal output transistor cause this type of boot up blurring, but I've seen it, and that's what I'm going to say.
Like I said, normally when it goes, it's going to lose power. You're not going to have any any power. But it could be that it's fixing to go out.
Exactly, right. So we've seen it before. It's rare, but it's happened that a hot will cause this kind of boot up blurring. And like Tim mentioned, it's because it's just about to go. It's kind of leaning on that edge. And like I said, not common, but it happens. And so it may be good to just replace it anyway, just to be on the safe side. And then the last thing that we mentioned, of course, was the tube. It may be an issue with the tube. And so at that point, you can try tube rejuvenation, see if it helps clear out any shorts or anything that may be in the tube. Obviously, Tim, you know how stuff just kind of builds up in the tube over time. Tube rejuvenation can help burn off some of that and hopefully get the picture back to being stable on boot up as well. Now, Tim, this is not a huge, I will say this to David, I mean, it is kind of an inconvenience, but it's not really a huge deal because after about 15 minutes it starts working perfectly, correct?
Right.
So it's not like it's, like I said, it's not like it's a huge deal because, after a 15-minute period you're still working, but we totally understand the desire to want it looking good from the get-go, right?
Oh, yeah, and that is an indicator that something is going out or going bad. So.
Absolutely. So, David, let's summarize it for him real quick, Tim. Make sure that all of the caps were replaced, like all the caps are replaced. If you see any caps that still look like they may be older, you may try replacing those because, again, not every cap kit comes with every cap. That's very important. So check over your caps. Make sure that everything looks good there. May try a hot replacement or a horizontal output transistor replacement. Again, this is rare, but we have seen it before where it has caused blurring. And so it is possible that you may have an issue with your hot going bad. Try replacing it. And, Tim, the picture, I'll go back to the outline real quick, is of the hot on the Sanyo that I have there. That picture is of the horizontal output transistor on the Sanyo. And so that's why I put that there. I know it's not a random picture. And I know a lot of the guys in the chat room know what that is, but David may not. So I wanted to show him this is what we're talking about when we're talking about hot, is this little guy right here on the side. And so that's what you want to replace if you want to go that route to see if it helps the issue. And Tim, the third thing is, of course, a tube rejuvenation, correct?
Correct.
So, and tube rejuvenators, I mean, you can buy one yourself, but if you only have one game, you may see if you've got a local VCR TV repair business anywhere around that may be able to help you out with that. Because, Tim, a lot of those old timers, if you've got a TV VCR place that repairs stuff that's been around for 30 or 40 years, I can almost guarantee you they'll have a tube rejuvenator in the back. And so it may be worth taking it there, getting it rejuvenated, and seeing if it helps the issue at all. So those 3 things, try those, David, see how it works out for you, and let us know what you find. Tim, anything else before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
Sounds good. So, David, hopefully answers your question, and good luck getting that Donkey Kong monitor to look as sharp as can be on boot up. Okay, Tim, we got a lot of action in the live chat, but it looks like Louie's taking care of a lot of it for us, and so that's good. Let's see. One Pawn Star says, is there a difference in quality between VGA CRT monitor and the original arcade monitor? Tim, so VGA CRTs tend to have sharper pictures, correct?
I believe so. A lot of them have a digital chip.
Right. So these tend to be more like the digital monitors that we'd see like a D9200. Now, if you've got a Tri-Sync monitor already in your cabinet, a Tri-Sync arcade monitor would be pretty darn close to what you get with a standard VGA monitor, correct?
Correct.
And when we mean by Tri-Sync, that means it uses the standard 15 kilohertz 15 kilohertz signal. It uses a 25 kilohertz, which is medium resolution signal, and it also uses the 31 kilohertz VGA signal as well, right, Tim?
Right.
And so,
you've got places you can plug in depending on what kind of game you have.
correct. So a lot of newer games, Tim, use the Tri-Sync monitor. It's very common in games that were made 2000 and up, correct?
I would think
so.
Yeah.
CRTs that you find in games that were manufactured 1999, 2000 and up, a lot of times are Tri-Sync. So you're going to get about the same quality out of that you get out of a standard VGA CRT monitor. But stuff before that, you may have a little bit sharper image off of the VGA CRT. But you got to remember that your VGA CRT also has to be compatible with the 15 kilohertz in order to run it, or you need some sort of signal converter. So that's something to keep in mind. But in general, obviously VGA monitors tend to be sharper than standard arcade monitors, just because of the way, obviously the syncs. So, but I mean, it's just nowadays though, Tim, it seems like we don't see many CRT monitors at all. Period. Correct?
No, not hardly.
Right, and for replacement purposes, most people are going LCD, and that's it is the way it is, just because CRTs you can't find them. So, but. There you go. Hopefully answers your question, One Pawn Star, and good luck with whatever projects you've got coming up involving that. Louis has a lot of stuff. He's recommending our DVDs to people. Tim, I want to thank Louis for that. Tim, we are out of our Volume 1 DVD, and I have not reordered. So I apologize to anybody who wants to order that up front. I need to reorder some, but I'm lazy, and we don't get a lot of orders for it anymore, and so it's one of those things where it's like, man. We just kind of have it on hold. I still have plenty of the 2, the 3, and the 4. So if you're ordering DVDs, you can order a 2, a 3, and a 4, and it's fine. But the Volume 1 right now is a rarity. So if you have one, I'll eventually reorder. It's just going to take me a little bit. So.
As long as I don't have to shoot on videos again.
No, you don't have to. I still have them all recorded, and
Okay.
backed up to the cloud. So if there's ever a crash, I think we'll be okay. And I still have physical copies of some of the Volume 1. So I just don't have a nice prepackaged, ready to ship Volume 1 ready to go. So, but anyway. But if you are ordering DVDs, guys, just keep that in mind. Here's the thing. It costs you the same amount to order like the trilogy as it does to order the individual. So order 2, 3, and 4, and then when we get more Volume 1s in, just order that and I'll ship it to you, okay?
Yeah. If anybody wants to pay triple, they can have my copy and I'll sign
there you go. $45, right? So
Yeah.
there you go.
You're desperate for one.
Okay, let's see what else we got here. Wanderlust Rider says, thanks for doing this stream. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. We love to have you here. YouTube Punk says, Doe, I'm late. You're not late. You're right on time. That's what I always say, Tim.
Right.
So you can catch the rest of the show whenever. There's no late here, right? So let's see. Wasteland Warrior, I have a 13-inch CRT monitor that came out of a Mega Touch, and I believe it's VGA. Is it possible to put it in a Pac-Man Cabaret with a converter? Actually,
Yeah.
it may be possible to just hook it straight up, correct?
Yeah, maybe. Most of them are arcade style monitors.
Right. So like in a Mega Touch, a lot of times what you have is a standard Wells Gardner monitor with a touch overlay, correct?
Yeah.
So all you have to do is just put it in and don't hook up the overlay part. So
Correct.
if you do that, then you're fine. It's the same. Now if it may be VGA, or if it's if it is VGA, you will need the signal converter like we're talking about in order to get it down to in order to connect it to the Pac-Man board. But if it's a 15 kilohertz monitor, it'll hook straight up. There'll be no conversion needed. So it just depends on what kind of monitor you're pulling out of that machine. Let's see. Oh, YouTube Punk says Volume 1 sold out. Yes, Volume 1 is sold out. So. People are already talking about Volume 5. So Volume 5, we need a video for changing a 29-inch CRT to LCD LED in a sit-down driver cabinet. Huh.
Okay. That's a little specific.
It is very specific. Tim, I think we're in the process of changing out a 27-inch CRT to a 26-inch LCD in a customer's cabinet, correct? Yeah. Pretty much the same process.
Pretty much.
So I'm not promising videos. I'm just saying that we're going to be doing that and filming it at some point. So we'll see.
I really thought I should have took a video today when I was doing the routing for the T-molding. I don't know that did we show that one on the Volume 1?
I don't think we've ever shown routing for T-molding.
It's not that hard to do. We'll try to do that if anybody's interested. Make your own. And put T-molding on it. It's real easy to do. Doesn't take long at all.
Absolutely. I think it's good. It's a good idea, Tim. Let's see what else we have. Somebody says the 13-inch will need to be reframed. Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought the Pac-Man Cabaret has a 13-inch too, right, Tim?
You got one.
I think it is 13-inch. I think it is. So they're saying it has to be reframed. I think the tube size, if the tube size is the same, it may be okay. Now, as far as like mounting it, I'm not sure if the frame mounts the same.
Yeah.
That may have to change.
You can switch frames or something.
Right, exactly. You may have to move the chassis and the tube to the frame in the Pac-Man Cabaret, but it's doable. Yeah. Let's see. Shop Class Dropouts. I love that, Tim. That's a good one. He says, "Hey guys, first time seeing you live. Have only been able to listen to the podcast in the past. Keep up the good work. Thank you." And by the way, cool YouTube name. Love those. Let's see. Wanderlust Rider, have you guys done many tube swaps? Thinking about trying to do one soon. Some of mine have heavy burn monitors. We have done tube swaps in the past, and Tim, we have a saying around here for tube swaps, right?
What's saying?
If the neck doesn't fit, you must quit.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can swap yokes, but man, that's a pain.
It is a pain.
So you don't want to do that. I mean, you can do it, but you don't want to. So if the neck doesn't fit, you must quit is like the easiest thing. Because I mean, if it fits, the vast majority of the time, if the neck board fits on the new tube, you're money. And so you still need to always check all of your tube settings to make sure that it's compatible. I mean, still, we highly recommend that. But we found that if the neck boards fit, man, most of the time it works fine. So no other things needed. So let's see what else we got here.
Wow.
I'm trying to catch up. Sorry, Tim. Wasteland Warrior, is the frame an odd size? It looks standard. I think what he's talking about is kind of what we were talking about, Tim, was that it's not that the frame's a weird size. It's that you're going from a horizontal mount to a vertical mount, right? When you're talking about the Pac-Man Cabaret to Mega Touch.
Right.
Yeah, you see, so the Mega Touch a lot of times horizontal frame, and so that horizontal frame may not fit perfectly in the vertical position of the Pac-Man spacing. So you may have to swap the frames between the two in order to swap them out there. So, okay. Let's see. Okay, everything looks good. Yep. YouTube Punk says PayPal donation sent. Boom! Thank you, YouTube Punk. We appreciate it. Thank you for the donations. Look at this. Yeah, you're going to give him jazz hands, Tim? Let me see some jazz hands. There we go. But thank you, YouTube Punk, for your donation. And remember, guys, if you want to send a donation, you can click the little $sign in the live chat. We'd highly appreciate any money that you send our way. Or if you go to arcaderepairtips.com/donate, you can donate to us, Tim. We put that money towards paying for website services and all sorts of different things. And we were putting it to good use during March and April, May, and June, basically buying merchandise from arcades who were having troubles. So, I mean, that's where a lot of our funds went during that time. But, Tim, there's still arcades out there hurting. So let us take a moment here to please encourage you guys, go to your local arcade, or if you're not going to go, buy some merchandise for them, pick up some to-go stuff, do something to help them out, because there's so many arcades that are closing around the country due to the COVID-19 crisis, and we definitely want to help them all out. So if there's a way that you can help your local arcade, please do it. They'll appreciate it, I promise. And you want your arcade to be open when all this is over. I promise you do. So be sure to support them and all that good stuff. So Okay, I think we're caught up. Wow, Tim, it is busy tonight. You guys are awesome, man. We're rocking and rolling here, Tim, with the live chat. I love it. So let us continue on with the outline then. And the next question we have is from Greg. And Greg says, looking for help on a Lethal Enforcers coin op. The game wasn't acknowledging the guns. You see the white flash on the screen when you pull the trigger, but it won't reload or hit the target. Replaced the guns and swapped out the board, still the same. Now the game is starting on its own without touching the 1 or 2 player buttons. Any info would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time, Greg. So, Tim, he's got some weird issues here. Greg does. He's got a Lethal Enforcers that is starting all by itself. Tim, this seems like it should have been in our October episode when we were talking about all the Halloween stuff. Right. But obviously, he's having some problems with his guns. I mean, that's pretty clear. And so he's only seeing the white flash, so we know that his trigger is working and his guns are probably hooked up correctly, but we're not getting any register on the guns. Tim, you've worked on light games a lot. What do you think's going on here with Greg's Lethal Enforcers cabinet, though?
Well, most of the time it's in the gun, and he already replaced that, and he did the board, which there are some things in the board that can go wrong. Outside of that, we got to start looking at his monitor then, because the monitor brightness has to be up. So sometimes just turning up the monitor brightness some has to be up pretty good bit to register that. He needs to go into. Did he say he went into his settings?
He did not specifically say he went into his settings, Tim, either time. He just said that he swapped the board and the guns.
I would try turning up the brightness and going into the settings and seeing if it'll register there, or maybe just needs calibrating. Sometimes you see in the flash, it's just not needs calibrating. So he needs to go into settings. Other than that, it's probably just a brightness turn up, go into the settings, and recalibrate his guns if they're new and working correctly.
Okay, so Greg is in the live chat with us too, Tim, and he says he also replaced the player 1 and 2 buttons. So, and he's still having these kind of weird issues. And so it does sound like there may be some wiring issues here, right, Tim?
Yeah, because also, though, I can't remember. Doesn't the game, can it start with the gun? You don't have to hit the button?
I think you have to hit the button in order to start the game. I think you have to hit the button. I don't think it starts by trigger pull.
Well, if you replace them both, then the wiring to those boards somehow are touching ground and automatically starting. So really make sure that when you replace the buttons, that you replace the switches also. That's what I'd like to know. Or the wiring to your switches, be careful with those. Or if you've got them hooked up in the wrong switch position, like normally closed, it's going to start up right away. And if you're not quite sure what we're talking about there, let us know. We'll answer it here. But you got basically 3 places you can plug into your switch. One that's kind of out there by himself doing his own thing, that's your common or your ground, and then the one closest to it, there'll be 2 on the side. The one closest to the one that's the common should be your normally open, and that's where it should be plugged in. If you actually have it plugged into normally closed, it's automatically going to start the game up like that. That would be another one of my suggestions. It could be.
Now, he says he can get into the settings and try to adjust the brightness with no luck. So it sounds like he has tried to adjust the brightness on the screen. Tim, sometimes when you adjust that brightness, you have to turn it past the point of comfortable, if that makes sense, correct?
Right. Yeah. And I have seen the point where we just got an older monitor that just wouldn't do it anymore. We just had to replace the monitor to get a better, brighter, more contrast in the monitor. You could try that. We've actually had to turn it way up to where I wouldn't like it to look at it, but just to get it to work, and that's kind of when we decided we'd go ahead and replace the monitor.
Now, Lethal Enforcers also has a mirror and a tube, and so you need to clean both those. Right, Tim? Yeah. I mean, we had a Lethal Enforcers 2 at one time, and you have to clean the mirror and clean the tube monitor to make sure that you're getting the most brightness out of it. Tim, because of the way the tube sits in the cabinet, it is more prone to collecting dust than any other monitor. And people who have Lethal Enforcers know what I'm talking about. Tim, basically the front of the monitor is basically sitting down in the cabinet, and then it reflects off a mirror that actually shows the picture to the player. And so, because of the way it sits, it collects more dust than any other monitor you'll ever see. So make sure that you're cleaning the top of that and cleaning the mirror really good to make sure you're getting that. Now, Tim, something else I thought about is with Lethal Enforcers 2, the negative 5 volts was something that was required. And the game would act funny if you did not have negative 5 volts hooked up. Okay, and when I mean funny, you wouldn't get sound, would be one of the funny things, but you get some other weird things too. So make sure that you have the negative 5 volts hooked up as well. That's very important on Lethal Enforcers specifically, and on a lot of Konami games for that matter. So if you have a Konami game, make sure that you've got the negative 5 volts hooked up. Let's see. Yeah, and another thing is, Tim, we've seen this when you've got a room with fluorescent lighting, correct? If you've got a room with fluorescent lighting, it'll kill gun games. Haven't figured out why, but we've seen that before, where if you have big old fluorescent lights up above your head, it does something to the optical sensors. It like blows them out to the point where they don't work. So I don't know if you have fluorescent lighting in your area that you're working on the game, but we've seen it before.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to ask. Has he tried it with the brightness up and it dark everywhere else in his room, game room and stuff?
So here's something else he says. He says he goes into the settings and it won't run the I/O check either. It's really strange. I've cleaned both. Really nasty. Don't think they've been cleaned since the 90s. Yeah, so he's cleaned his monitor and his mirror, but he's not getting the I/O check, Tim. Have you checked your voltage? Would be the question. Have you checked the voltage? Because here's the deal. And we say this in the post here, Tim, that we're about to show, the slide, is that you tried a different board and you tried different guns. That means the problem has to be in the cabinet somewhere. That's either the monitor, that's either the power supply, that's somewhere like that. Again, Lethal Enforcers is a game that's very particular about power supply. So you may need to crank it up a little past the traditional 5 volts in order to get it to run properly. Tim, we're talking about 5.05, 5.1 in order to really get it going, right?
Right.
So that may be the problem there, especially if you're having it in both boards and guns. I mean, you have 2 sets of boards, 2 sets of guns, Tim. That pretty much takes out the board gun element of it. It does seem like it's got to be either a power supply, wiring, or monitor issue. So focus on those areas is what we would say, and see if you find any issues with any of those 3 areas. Power supply could definitely be the problem. And even if you're at 5 volts even, try going up to 5.05, 5.1 and see if it makes a difference. Tim, Lethal Enforcer seems to be a game that gets a lot of damage. And what I mean by that is players like to hit it for some reason, or it likes to get bumped a lot. And so with that in mind, it may be that the power supply has kind of, gone down over time. Make sure that both your 5 and your 12 volts are locked in, as well as your negative 5. Like I mentioned, Tim, Konami games like this, very particular about negative 5.
Yeah.
So I think that's everything. Now, he says he has not checked the voltage. So
that's where I would really highly head towards.
Right, now we have a video that's not very good on checking and replacing a power supply that you can check out. But Lethal Enforcers may have a ATX style power supply. Sometimes it doesn't have a traditional switching power supply in it. And so in order to check that, you'll need to have a meter, and you'll have to unplug the Molex connector and then put the probes of your meter inside of the connector. And Tim, our traditional colors are red for 5 volts, yellow 12 volts, white negative 5 volts. And so if you put in like your red probe into a pin that has a red wire, and you put the black probe into a pin that has a black wire, that should give you 5 volts if you're looking at an ATX style power supply. Now, if you have a traditional power supply, switching power supply, it tells you what each voltage is. You just put your red probe on the voltage, put your black probe on the ground, you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
So definitely voltage is a thing to check. If the voltage was low, it didn't matter which board you put in there, because it's not getting enough voltage to operate properly, and that could really be causing our whole issue, right, Tim?
Yeah, especially when he says not even registering that.
Exactly. Okay, so Greg, I'm going to go ahead and throw up the slide, but I think we've given you a lot of good feedback here. Hopefully you can try some of these things and let us know how it goes. But the slide that we had here says, the fact that you replaced the guns and swapped out the board makes us think you have an issue with your monitor. And Tim, now we have to go even further with that, not just monitor, but maybe power supply or wiring as well. But since you've done all the checks on the monitor, we're pretty sure that your monitor is in good shape. So at this point, it's probably more of a power supply or wiring issue. And so I'm going to kind of disregard the top part of this. But the starting on its own could also be attributed to a low voltage or power supply issue as well, right, Tim?
Very, very true.
Sounds good. So, and he says, cool, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for sending in your question, and hopefully you can get that Lethal Enforcers going. If you have any additional questions about it, please let us know. Send us an email, and we'll try to help you out further. So,
yeah, by all means, follow up with us.
Exactly. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, a lot of people talking about they have Lethal Enforcers, Tim. We have a lot of people here. Danny says, I had a Lethal Enforcers. I know they need a darker area to play for sure. Don't work well in bright areas. YouTube Punk says, we had a Lethal Enforcers in the game room I worked in. They had volume jacked up. Lethal Enforcers, player 1. That's right. Love that. Lethal Enforcers. And then whenever you'd press start, player 1, player 2. We've obviously Lethal Enforcers is a very common game. It seemed like it was one of the big light gun games that really took off. Probably the first one.
In Area 51 about the same time, or just
Lethal Enforcers came out slightly before, which is why I think you see so many of them. But Area 51 definitely took that concept and flew with it for sure. Man, you see a ton of Area 51s too. Great games. So, YouTube Punk says he needs to take it to a priest for an exorcism. Yeah. Hey, whatever works. Let's see what else we have here. Danny says, I have a lot of Lethal Enforcers parts because I'm tired of dealing with them. There you go. So definitely, Tim, I think starting at power is going to be probably the key for Greg here. So hopefully that'll help him out big time. And Tim, Wanderlust just sent in a $10 donation. Yay! Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And thanks for being here in the live chat and enjoying the show with us, man. It's awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, you're raising a glass to him?
Yeah, I'm
raising a glass. There you go. It's funny because you've got your little filter on, and sometimes the glass just disappears. It just looks like you're holding air. So, but anyway, thank you so much for that donation. We highly appreciate it, and thanks for being here. We love having everybody as a part of the show, Tim. Like I said, great live chat tonight, so we're very excited about that. And Louis holding it down like always. Louis, you the man. So there we go. Okay, Tim, let us move on through our outline here, and our next question is from Tung. And I'm not talking about the one in your mouth. No, Tung, T-U-N-G. And he says,
okay.
Hi, I have a monitor problem with my Street Fighter 2 arcade. Is there a way I can fix it myself? And Tim, I have the picture here, and I know it has a play button on there, but he just sent me a snapshot, Tim. So he just sent the snapshot of it. He didn't actually send me a video. But Tim, it's pretty obvious to tell what's going on by this snapshot. I think the live chat may be able to chime in and tell us exactly what they think is going on. But Tim, What now?
Especially with that particular game.
Exactly. This seems to be a common problem with Street Fighter 2 boards. Tim, give us some of your expert advice on this.
Well, he probably doesn't have a monitor issue at all. He's got a board issue.
Yep.
And it just could be a reconnection issue or a power issue, but more than likely it's a graphic issue.
Yeah, and it does look more like a graphic problem, and it's really and the way you can tell, Tim, is kind of the way that the logo has those sprite kind of things around it. The little jail bar lines, Tim, that we're getting in it as well are also kind of they look more sprite based than they do monitor based when we're looking at that. But just the gook that we have, if you will, on the screen makes us think more of a board issue. Now, Tim, with CPS boards in general, a lot of people know that they're a board stack, which means you have like 2 or 3 boards stacked on top of each other. And so what you can try here is you can try to push down on them to see if it makes a little bit better connection. But Tim, as you and I know with Street Fighter 2 boards, man, they just wear out.
Yeah.
I mean, they do over time. I mean, they've got there's a lot of the ROM chips on there can go bad over time just because of they get played out, man. I mean, Street Fighter 2, man, back in the day was getting played 1,000,000 times a day with 1,000,000 different quarters, and over time they just wear out. Now, Tim, with that said, like I said, he can try pushing down. We have a great video and post on inspecting an arcade board that he can try out some of those things, but he may try pushing down where the 3 board stack connects and seeing if he can make a little bit better connection between there. And Tim, there are some CPS1 repair guides. I'm going to link to one here that he can check out for Tung, but beyond that, it may just need somebody to take a look at it with a scope and figure out what's wrong, right?
Maybe so.
Yeah, so I mean, this it really depends on what's going on. There's a lot of different chips on there that like to fail. Tim, there's some custom chips on there that like to fail, which is always fun. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put this slide up for him so he can kind of tell what's going on here. But based on your photo, it does look like your game is experiencing more of a board issue than a monitor problem. The picture definitely shows some sprite corruption among other issues. As far as fixing it yourself goes, you can try some of the tips that we discussed in our post on inspecting an arcade board and see if that helps. There's also a CPS1 repair guide that may help, and Tim, I linked to it here, but it is also down below in the show description, so you can check that out. Beyond that, you'll probably need to send the board off for repair, and Tim, that means sending it to somebody, like I said, who has the scope and the chips and everything that they need, and burners, of course, to replace whatever they need to replace, so that way, you know, he can get the board working in tip-top shape. But it does seem like more of a board problem at this moment than a standard monitor issue. So, Tim, is there anything else you suggest for tongue beyond what we've already said?
No, except for one day when you have a grandchild, you should call him Tongue.
There you go. Very interesting name, Tim, but I love it. You know, I mean, that's the cool thing about us. We get questions from all over the place, and it's not always from the United States sometimes. I believe this was actually somebody from the United States. So, and that may not be his real name. We don't know, Tongue. We don't know you, but that's what your email address said, so that's what we go by a lot of times. But hopefully we've given you some great tips on fixing your Street Fighter 2 board. Now, Tim, it may be easier to find just a replacement board than it is to get it fixed, but Street Fighter 2 boards have gone up in value, and so with that in mind, a repair is probably not a bad idea. And Tim, we have a lot of people who will repair boards on our resources page at arcaderepairtips.com/resources. Louis actually linked to it earlier in the live chat too, so you can go there, find a board repair guy who will fix it for you. They're going to charge you a little bit, but it may be cheaper at this point than getting a replacement board. So. Okay, so Tim, I think that does it for tongue. The next question we have here is from JT. Now, JT's got a pretty long one here, Tim, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. Hello, I watched your video of the cocktail table JAMMA harness installation, which was very helpful, but I have a couple of questions. I purchased the Holland Computers Retro Arcade Kit that has the 16-in-1 PCB, JAMMA harness, 3 buttons on each side, and joysticks. So here are my questions. With this type of setup, I would not leave the game on when playing. Does this eliminate the high score saves when I turn off the power? If so, is there a way to add a battery in order to maintain high score even when the machine is off? If so, what parts would I need and where or how would I need to connect it? Now, Tim, he continues on here, so I'm going to continue on. Number 2, I want to know how to add the side buttons for the pinball action game that is on the 16-in-1 board. I am not sure how the buttons are assigned as I have not turned it on yet because I am still getting ready to construct the cabinet and decide where to put the holes for buttons. I was going to add 2 extra buttons for this one game, but then didn't know how they would connect. I can only think that they would tie into the existing button 1 fire, button 2 jump buttons for left and right, but I'm not sure as I didn't see any info for this. Can and how would this be done? Thank you in advance your help is appreciated very much, JT. So there you go, Tim. We had 2 slides worth of question there, but it really just comes down to 2 basic things. Number 1, can I save the high scores when I turn the machine off? And if I can't, is there a way to do a battery save on them? And number 2 is, I want to play pinball action, but I want to install like pinball style buttons. Where do I need to connect those buttons in order to achieve this? Those are the 2 questions we're really getting down to it, Tim. So what about the first one first, Tim? So how do I save the high scores on my 16-in-1 board?
Well, as you might notice, I went inside a game here.
Oh, I see. You're actually inside one.
Yeah, I'm going inside, going in deep, coming down the factory line. I went inside. Fortunately, we have... coming up in our preview, I have a lot of experience in the cocktail 16-in-1 game. So there is a lot of the if he just bought it from Holland Computers, they now have an option for high score save. So he should be able to turn that on, go through his settings. I think maybe it's a dip switch. And it is a dip switch.
It is a dip switch.
It's a dip switch. And so I want to say it's number 2. And it allows you to turn on the high score save.
It's number 3. I've got it here in the slide, so I'm looking at it. I'm cheating. Sorry.
That's all right. Well, number 3, you turn that on, and then that will allow you to save the high score, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. The second part is I just played video pinball the other day. I didn't really like it because you use the joysticks left and right. So when you go left, the left flipper, the right, all you really want to do is he could put his own buttons on the side of his game where he would or wherever he wants them. They could be on the control panel, I guess, but I would put them on the side like a pinball game and just wire his left and his right joystick buttons jumper off of them, run a separate wire over to them so that when he hits the left button, it would do the left flipper and the right would do the right flipper. That would be fun. It would also be really fun to play bed like that and go left and right with your flipper button. But,
Well, I was going to say, so I think he wants to put them on the control panel. Tim, I think we are talking about a cocktail cabinet. And so putting them on each player's control panel on the sides would allow each player to be able to play it pinball style on their own side, which I think would be cool.
That's what I would do, because you just don't have a lot of room on the front, but you do have some room on the sides depending on what cocktail cabinet.
Yeah, and it sounds like he wants to buy the Holland Computers style kit, Tim. And so if you're using the Holland Computers kit, like I said, just put 2 buttons on the side of those panels. You can drill them. Just use what do we use? 1 3/8. Is that the size we like?
No, 1
1 1/8. Excuse me. You see, sorry, I've been doing other measurements lately.
1 that 1/8 inch makes a world of difference. So just did a cocktail cabinet, which we're going to show.
Yeah, so 1 1/8. Hole saw. You just drill them in on the sides. Get them about you could go an inch over and an inch up or something like that on the sides of the control panel. Put those buttons in. It'll make the game a lot more fun for sure, right, Tim?
Yeah.
So there you go. So let me show the slide here real quick. And so on your first question, the 16-1 board actually has a dip switch setting to save the high scores. We found that it can be inconsistent and usually only saves the top score for each game, but that's typically the one people want to keep anyway. Yes, you could rig a 5 volts DC battery up to the board, but that seems like overkill, right, Tim?
A very overkill.
Yeah, so you could do it. Because the 16-1 I think only needs 5 volts. I don't think it needs 12 volts. So technically you could have a UPS style system for like I said, a 5 volts battery type UPS system that would do it, but man, that's a lot of work. And Tim, we've had 16-1 boards go bad, just because they were left on, because they're not the most quality things, believe it or not. But I think in this particular case, just flip the dip switch, you'll be in good shape. And that is dip switch 3. Put it on the on position, and that should get your high score saver working. Now, as for the pinball action question, like Tim mentioned, you can jumper wires over from the left and right directions to the side buttons that you're going to install. And if you do that, you should be in good shape. Just run the jumper wires over there along with a ground wire, and you'll be fine. Right, Tim?
Correct.
Anything else for JT before we move on?
No, I don't think so. I like the question, though. It was a great question.
Absolutely. So, and Tim, I love how you're inside a game.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I was about to say. I know exactly what that's a Miss Pac-Man for sure. You can see the daughter board.
I told you I came down into the factory and actually I'm checking quality check.
You're gonna get your probes out and check voltage right there. Let me see you.
It's easy.
There you go. So anyway, very cool. But hopefully that answers JT's questions. Oh, look at this! Look at this! He's got the meter and everything. So. Oh,
actually,
Tim, we were talking about lighting, and I totally forgot to show off, so obviously Amazon had Prime Day between the time that we had our last live show and this live show, right? And so I showed Tim before the live show started, but I'll show everybody since we're here. I put all the multicolored LED bulbs in my little lighting system here, so if I do this, there we go, party time. So, and then I can hit this, and we're right back. So I tell you, the bulbs have gotten really cheap, and these are 100-watt equivalents. In fact, if you walked into my game room, Tim, you couldn't even tell that they were any different than what they were before. So, because they look, I had matched the color to the way that the older bulbs were, and so, everything looks exactly the same until, I start messing with all the color things. And so, for the pricing that these things were, they're a really good deal, and, hopefully they'll last forever. So, but it was fun. We were playing music videos and stuff out in the game room and playing, and I turned on the light show, and, everybody, the kids were just crazy about it. So, fun stuff. But Prime Day was fun. Yeah, we'll talk about Prime Day in the after show. Let us know what you picked up, if you picked up anything. There are a lot of good sales, Tim. I don't know if you bought anything, so.
I bought a couple things, but mostly for games that I need.
Of course. Right, so we'll talk about that in the after show. You guys stay tuned for that. But Tim, we're down to our last set of questions here. And of course, we always do our selection of questions from YouTube for our last one. And so I'm going to go ahead and show the slide, and we'll hit them in a rapid fire fashion. So here they are, Tim. We have Sergeant Beefcake. Now, Tim, I thought that was your name personally, but apparently there's another Sergeant Beefcake online. I'm sorry, Tim, you took your name. But he asked, where can I purchase a degassing coil? I just bought a Frogger machine that could really use this product. Thank you. So first question is degassing coil. Where can I get one? The second one is Mr. Awesome. Tim, another name that I think that should be associated with you, but somebody else already took it. Sorry. And he says, my JAMMA harness is really tight, meaning that it's very hard to press on the board and hard to remove. move. Is there a safe way you know of to loosen the harness? And Tim, of course, that is the title of our episode for this month. Is my JAMMA harness is too tight. Of course, JAMMA in parentheses there. But yeah, so that's Mr. Awesome's question we're alluding to in our title, and hopefully you'll have some good input on that. And then Green Bean Eater, Tim, probably another synonym for you. And he says, hey, I'm grabbing a 60-in-1 soon, and I want to use a VGA monitor and ATX power supply. What should I do with the unused JAMMA wires, preferably without snipping the wires outright? So question 1, I need a degaussing coil. Where can I get one? Question 2, JAMMA harness is too tight. What can I do? Question 3, 60-in-1. What do I do with the additional wires? So Tim, let's take them one by one. First one first. Where can I get a degaussing coil, Tim?
I would go to Twisted Quarter and get one. They're about the best price and good people.
Exactly. We order a lot from Twisted Quarter, Tim. We used to recommend MCM Electronics, but I don't know if they have them anymore.
Man, I don't know what's going on out there.
Yeah, so, but Twisted Quarter definitely has them, guys, so you guys can get them there, twistedquarter.com. And, Tim, we actually have a link to that here in this post, so we'll show that off. And it's also down below in the show description, so Sergeant Beefcake, if you want to check that out, click the link. And, Tim, a lot of arcade parts suppliers carry this, so if you're ordering parts from a supplier already, you may just call them or check with them to see if they have any degaussing coils. They may have one. Just throw it in with your part order, so... okay, second one. JAMMA harness is too tight, Tim. What can I do in order to loosen it?
Well, one thing that's a good problem to have. You want them to be tight so that they make a better connection. But if you're just kind of hell-bent on loosening them, you can take a small screwdriver like a jeweler screwdriver or small half screwdriver or something and kind of bend them in a little bit. But again, back to it. We'd rather them be really tight because that helps make a good quality connection, and you don't really undo them very often.
Yeah, now you mentioned, I actually texted this question to Tim. In the text, he said, yes, you could put a screwdriver in there and kind of bend them back, but there's a chance that you could do damage, correct?
Yeah, you could break it, or you could bend it to where it's not making good contact, which is the opposite. You'd rather it be making that good contact, in my opinion.
And Mr. Awesome, when he sent the question, he also asked, could I twist the screwdriver? Definitely don't recommend twisting it, right?
No.
You'd want to rock it, right?
Yeah, you want to rock it kind of just a little bit.
Right,
I mean, we're talking about a very small screwdriver, too. When I say jewelers, there's just one in my hand. I guess everybody can see it. Something really tiny, just a little bit.
Right, and Tim, we really don't recommend that, though. Having a tight JAMMA harness is a good thing, like you mentioned. And so, and Tim, it'll get looser as you unplug it and plug it back in. Unplug it and plug it back in. Eventually, It'll get looser as well.
I agree.
So, and then the last one, Green Bean Eater, Tim. What should I do with the extra wires that I'm not going to wire up with my 60-in-1 board?
Yeah. I've run across this problem several times in the last couple of weeks. I don't have a problem cutting them. I usually cut them about 4 or 5 inches long so that if I make a mistake and cut the wrong wire, which I've done before, and I can get back onto that wire. I don't like cutting them at the nub or pulling that pin out, which is what we just talked about with a screwdriver. But if you don't want to cut them, because it does kind of give a look of, kind of a tear all sticking out, you got these wires sticking out, then you can just kind of bundle those extra wires up. We lasso them up and around, just zip tie them or tape them together. As long as the ends aren't exposed where they could touch something and short something out, you'll be okay.
Exactly. So, Tim, with all that in mind, let's show the scene real quick. Sergeant Beefcake, you can purchase a degaussing coil from Twisted Quarter. And, Tim, there is the link, but like I mentioned before, it is in the show notes below. So if you want to click that, you can go there and you can get you a nice degaussing coil. And, Tim, there's a picture of it there. Gotta love that. Yeah. Mr. Awesome, a tight JAMMA harness is a good thing as it makes it for a better connection. It should get better over time. Yes, you can bend the pins back with a screwdriver, but we don't recommend it. We wouldn't recommend it is what I say here, but we don't recommend it. So, I mean, if you absolutely want to get it a little bit looser, then you can do that, but don't recommend it. Probably wouldn't do it. And definitely don't twist it like we mentioned before. Green Bean Eater bundle, the extra wires up with a zip tie. Tim cuts them, leaves enough to where he can connect back to them if he needs to. But in my case, I like to zip tie them up and put them with a twist tie, just in case you need them. Tim, you may put a different JAMMA board in there at some point, right?
Maybe.
So I mean, if you're not, you may go to the 412-in-1, and you may need some of those wires, correct?
Agreed, and that makes it real easy to just cut a zip tie and be back in business.
Yeah, absolutely. So so hopefully, just bundle them up. You're good to go, and no harm, no foul. You should have plenty of room in your cabinet to do that. So hopefully it answers all of those questions from YouTube. Thank you guys for those questions, and good luck with all of your arcade projects. And Tim Shop Class Dropouts just says that he's heading out for the night. He has projects to work on. So thanks for catching the live show this time. We appreciate it. And hey, just leave us on in the background. Right?
Right.
And that's what we used to do. We used to leave stuff on in the background when we were working on machines, including outfield music, which we'll also talk about in the after show. Right, Tim?
Correct.
So something else for the after show. Outfield music was like our official background music to working on games with at one point, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that here in the after show. Of course, there's big news with the lead singer of the Outfield, Tim, that we'll talk about soon. So stay tuned to the after show if you want to hear all that. But anyway, Tim, we are to your tech tip moment now. Last month, we featured one of your multi-cade builds that you did, which we called the Cooler Cade. But Tim, this is kind of a take on that, correct?
Yeah, so if you might remember last month, we had a guy that wanted us to convert a working game and put a refrigerator in it where the coin box was and stuff. And it was we didn't mind because it was his game. But really, we don't like to tear up any kind of classic game or anything. So what we decided to do was build a cocktail version of it from scratch. We literally went to Home Depot, bought some wood, and you want to show the slides?
Yeah, I'm putting it up now.
This is what we come up with, guys. We did a few things a little different. As you can see, of course, the refrigerator is there. I'll just go through the things that are different about ours out from anybody out there. One thing you might see in that second frame is we installed a cup holder. You push it on the side and it pops out, and you can put your cup holder or your drink or beverage of your choice there. You guys might notice that I had those control panels made local from a steel fabricator, and those are stainless steel. So we didn't buy those ready-made. We had them custom made, and that's why I said make sure it's a 1 1/8, because they cut those holes 1 inch, and that extra 1/8 inch came from me grinding on them, and that took a long time that I want to admit. The next thing that I will talk about is that there's two more things I want to mention. The paint job itself is we have Pro Liner shot like you get in a truck bed liner. So it has a tough coating over it. It's on wheels, and it can move around. You can bump into stuff, and you don't have to worry about hurting it or denting or cracking the paint or hurting the paint job. So I like that about it. Another trick, guys, that we could go into in detail sometimes, I probably should post some pictures on how to do it. You might notice, if you can see that bottom picture, it has one cord going into the game that powers, goes into a power plug, and out of that, the refrigerator has to stay on all the time. So this was key even for me, that you only want the game, you don't want the game to stay on 24/7, but you do want the refrigerator to stay on 24/7. So the game is hooked up to the switch, the refrigerator stays on all the time, but when you hit the switch, the game comes on and plays. Also, we ran the monitor straight to the power supply and didn't use the monitor converter that comes with it, so that is possible to do in case anybody's curious about that. The last thing that I would like to mention, and you can't really see this in the pictures because you're not supposed to be able to see it, because it was for home use only, we did put some hinges on there, and we used a specialty latch that I think was pretty cool. I know, John, didn't you get to look at it? It's
I got to see it.
You move over and it slides and it allows you to pop the top open. It's a hidden latch, and the secret there is, do you remember, John, where we got that latch from?
I don't know where you got it from. I saw the latch, though.
We got that from a casket company that makes caskets. Because have you ever been to a funeral and seen a latch on one of them things? Now, you can't because they're hidden. So it gave me the idea. I just did some internet research on hidden latches, and you really can't see them at all. But I know where they are, and I can unlatch them, and it will allow the top to open, and we can work on it. I guess we don't have a picture. I should have taken, maybe I'll take some more pictures if you guys are interested of the build and stuff. But if y'all have any questions, the tricky part was, number one, keeping the refrigerator on all the time, but the game on and off with a button. One power cord to the whole thing that runs a refrigerator, an arcade game, and a power supply and a monitor. That was a little tricky. And then the cup holder, I think, was just kind of an added touch. But it is for sale, so we call it the Cooler K. That's some preliminary artwork that we came up with, but we'll probably end up doing something different. Anyway, love to hear everybody's feedback on it. We worked pretty hard on it. Total building time, if we just sat down from start to finish, about 12 hours.
Okay, that's not terrible.
Start to finish.
Yeah. So we did get a question from Geeklight. He said, how expensive was the metal control panel?
Okay, that cost us, because it was a prototype. Now, the next time if I went and said, I need more, the local shop did both of those for us. I want to say it was about $80, so about $40 each, which I thought honestly was pretty reasonable. We were off. I will say a couple of mistakes that we made. We gave them a drawing of a flat piece, but when you curve, you lose they're really about a quarter of an inch short now that they're curved. They did the bend for us though. You wouldn't notice it playing the game, but of course I noticed it, and that's something I would allow that extra half inch for the bend. But I thought it was pretty reasonable. Now, had we, I could have, if they would have had a punch, if I would have had, in other words, they have to cut for the 1 1/8. If it's a punch for like 1 inch, they could do it a little cheaper. But trust me, you want them to do the 1 1/8, and having that locally done, I thought was pretty reasonable and pretty good.
Sounds good.
If I ordered 10 of them, I could get the price down probably about $30.
Yeah, and so I got to see it in person. It looks great. Yeah, and you Linexed it basically, right? So this is the same stuff you put in your truck bed to keep scratches and stuff from showing up. That stuff is so cool looking on a game. It's something I wouldn't have thought about. So.
Yeah, it kind of, with the stainless steel, it really gives it a cool look. And then in the first picture, you can tell I put a LED light strip instead of the traditional coin lights.
Sorry, I'm showing the next scene already. Here we go. I'll go back to, here we go. We got it. So you can see the LED strip, especially in that first picture there.
Yeah, and another trick that I would highly recommend, you learn a lot of stuff, finding a super glue that would actually hold the strip to it without having to screw it in or staple it in or some kind of odd way of getting that was very tough. Nothing sticks to that Linex. That is good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's made to protect, like we said, it's made to protect, like truck bed liners and other things, or truck beds and other things.
So it cleans off really easily because we've been building other games, getting sawdust and stuff on them, and you can just wash it. I mean, how many times you could take a water hose to that game and it wouldn't hurt it none. And it also, guys, if you're putting a wood panels together, you're going to have, we use staple or nails, brad nails with our fun tool to use. But let's say you had screw holes or whatever, the Linex also covers all that. So you don't see any lines or where the wood came together or any holes or anything like that. So that's another thing I would highly recommend that. And it gave it kind of a really cool guy toolbox kind of look.
I was gonna say, and I have the another piece that's gonna be an upgrade maybe in the next version, right?
Yeah.
So let's not talk about that. But I have another piece that may add some other functionality. Correct.
We're doing one now that's going to have a bigger refrigerator in it, and possibly a bigger screen. We looked at a screen the other day, Jonathan, that has those same lights that you have with a controller around the monitor.
Oh, nice.
So I could change it to blue, green, whatever color, a million colors, or have it flash. But may kind of distract you from the monitor playing. I'm not sure. Maybe if it's just one solid color, that wouldn't be a lot. Another thing we looked at is that light inside the refrigerator is bright white. That is changeable to maybe doing that to a blue or something just to give it a cool ambiance. But it does really look cool at night and worked out pretty good.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for showing us your new build, Tim, and you're selling these things, so if people are interested, right, they can contact you.
Yeah, they sure can. Or if you know somebody that might be interested, or if you have any questions, I really have an idea of doing more because I love the 60 and ones, but I hate destroying classic games. Some other ideas, and somebody want to steal them, run with it, that's okay. Maybe turning a coffee table into a game that you could literally use as a piece of furniture, remove the top, and there's a game underneath, roll out some control panels. So some more functionality and setup. So this one's has a refrigerator in it. Maybe some other type games like that. Just different stuff. I kind of like it.
Sounds good. Well, Tim, thanks for filling us in, showing us some of the things you've been working on. It's always fun to see that. And if you guys have any other questions for Tim about the Coolercade or anything else he's working on, you can always send them to questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and they'll go to both of us, and of course he'll reply in time. So thank you, Tim, for that. And now it's time to move on to our discussion portion. And Tim, this first article was something that got a lot of traction on our Facebook and social media pages. And so let me just show that real quick. Seattle Arcade Thinks on Its Feet introduces touchless pinball. And Tim, this is from King 5, which is a Seattle, I believe, news organization. But they say Adaball Amusements in Fremont has adapted to coronavirus pandemic precautions with a new innovation, pinball with pedals. The side buttons on the pinball machine are gone, and a simple bar stool gives players a chance to sit and play pinball with their feet. The start button, the launch, and the left and right pedals are all controlled by foot. The touch-free version of pinball was what Adaball needed to welcome the neighborhood back inside at 50% capacity, of course. So, Tim, this is interesting. I mean, it really is something I think, maybe needed just because of the coronavirus. But, Tim, it's been a while. But I felt like maybe this would be a great arcade debate segment for this evening. So, Tim, the question is, does modifying a pinball machine to use foot controls diminish the gameplay experience? So, Tim, this is also, of course, for our live chat audience. If they want to get in and give their positions on this debate topic tonight, Tim, they can let us know what they think. But you and me are going to debate this. Does modifying a pinball machine to use foot controls diminish the gameplay experience? So, Tim, I'm going to start with you. Tim, what do you think? Does modifying a pinball machine to use foot controls diminish the gameplay experience?
Well, of course it does. You're not playing with your hands, which is part of playing a pinball game. If you have hands to play one with and the ability to play like that, why would you want to use your feet? Of course, it diminishes it. It's not the same. And they need to spray their games and clean them and not worry about the virus so bad. If they want to, they could play with gloves. I'd rather play with gloves on than I would to play with my feet. But then that's my opinion. What's yours, John?
Well, here's the thing, Tim, okay? Yes, it may not be the same as playing with your hands, but here's the thing. You don't have to touch it. And right now, touching things is a really bad thing to do because we have this thing called the coronavirus out there. And so, while it may not feel the same as traditional pinball, you may not be able to, move and shake the game as much as you would with the traditional, like, left and right buttons holding your hands on them like you normally would. You still get to play pinball safely while in a indoor environment. I think that this is a cool little thing that they set up in order to allow people to play without touching the machine. And Tim, in bigger cities like Seattle, where the coronavirus is more of a problem, I think things like this are needed. And while it may not give the same gameplay experience, I don't know if it so much diminishes it. What would you say to that?
Well, I say that if you're a male and you don't want to father a kid, you don't start by touching anything. But if some things are worth the risk, you know what I'm saying? It's just not the same. You take the chance and you just play the game the way it's supposed to be played, or you don't play at all, or you play at your own house. You don't worry about it. But I do think it's kind of cool. I think there's what what got me, John, is that maybe there are some people with some disabilities that could actually, they could keep this down the road, maybe use it for that. But to me, it just wouldn't be the same. How do you tilt with your feet? I don't know. You know, a good pinball player, not me, of course, but people that really know how to play, actually shape the game and try to get as close to tilting as they can without. I don't know that you could get that same experience with your feet, but then again, haven't played it, so maybe it just takes a lot more practice with your feet to get the tilt.
You know,
down.
you could probably rig up like a nudge and a push button. If I had a nudge and a push on my feet to where like nudge would be like just move it left to right really quick, and kind of a push, you know, as you and me like to do, we kind of push the machine back a little bit sometimes to get the ball to bounce our way. If I had two buttons that corresponded to that with my foot pedals, I may be able to get a very similar experience. You know, it would still be hard, I think. Obviously, Tim, I don't know if it diminishes it, but it's definitely a different way to play, and that's my point. Is that you know you don't know until you try it. So I would say don't knock it until you try it. Maybe it's better than we're all thinking. I saw the video, Tim, and I will tell you the video is quite impressive. If you haven't seen the video on that news story, it's pretty neat. And even I was shocked at how well the guy seemed to be playing. And here's the thing: I can do it with my hands in my pockets, and I can play pinball. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that he should just wear a mask and play it the regular way.
Okay, well, Tim, we'll leave it at that. You guys can decide what you like to do. But here's the thing, Tim. Maybe there's a pinball machine that's made for foot control at some point. Like you're saying, this could be an accessibility thing more than anything. But the fact that they went to all the trouble to mod their pinball machines so that people can play them without touching them says a lot about this arcade. I will say that. And the fact that they're trying their best to survive in this very difficult time.
Kudos to them, and we definitely would try to play it and support them if we could.
Absolutely. So we'll leave the debate there, Tim. Not a whole lot of debate on this one, but we'll see what the chat room thinks and let them chime in. But it's always fun to debate, you know, on something like this. So what do you guys think? Does modifying a pinball machine to use foot controls diminish the gameplay experience? Tim, we have a couple of things here. Geeklight says nudge anyone, kind of like you were talking about, Tim. Obviously, with foot controls, it may be hard to nudge the game. Michael says shaking the table is an integral part of game. And that is true with pinball, definitely. But, you know, who's to say you couldn't put, like, one foot on a flipper and, you know, just kind of move the, you know, kick the machine with your other hand or whatever the case may be, or put it up against the machine and kind of give it a nudge that way. Michael said, now that's an awesome point for people with disabilities. That's pretty awesome. And I think so, Tim. I think that, like you kind of hit on something, is that this may allow people to play pinball who have not had a chance to play pinball before, correct?
Correct.
That's probably the coolest part. Now, Tim, the one that I saw, you had to stand. Or you had to sit. But I'm like, you could probably make it to where you could stand on it. Like have a standing switch that's a momentary style. Yeah. Or maybe not. I think flippers are hard to control like that. But there may be some modifications you can make to this to make it even more friendly than what it is now. But like I said, you should watch the video if you haven't already on the King 5 site and see this guy playing it. It looks a lot cooler than what I thought it would look like when I just heard foot controls for pinball machines. So, go ahead.
See the video of the guys playing pinball in slow motion?
We posted it on our Facebook page, but I did not check out that video, and a lot of people have said really good things about it.
That was really interesting, and so I wonder too. You know, like a real pinball player, they know how to hit the switch and make it only hit the first lead or the second. So I would also wonder with your feet how you could do that to where you catch a ball and all that stuff. You know, I wonder if it's as sensitive.
Right. It's a good question. I don't know. We'd have to see the inside of their setup to really know that. Geeklight says DDR pinball, basically, right? DDR pinball? That's what it is. But guys, if you have any other comments about that, I found it very interesting. So, here's the thing. We have to change. We have to kind of adapt with what the times are giving us. And right now with coronavirus, there's a lot of arcades struggling because people don't want to go there and touch a million things and have to wash their hands a million times. And so maybe the foot controls is something that's going to come to play more often. Who knows? But, kudos to Addaball for doing it. And hopefully they get a lot of business and a lot of free advertising off of it. Obviously, Tim, they're getting free advertising from us. So.
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll leave that there, and we'll continue on to our next slide. And Tim, you may have heard that Jersey Jack put out a Guns N' Roses reveal, which we actually alluded to, I think, in some of our Facebook posts. Pretty much everybody knew that this was going to be Guns N' Roses. The only question was when they were going to release it, right, Tim?
Right.
Now, this is designed by Eric, who also did, I think, Parts of the Caribbean, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, he's got a lot of experience designing pinball machines. And, of course, Slash apparently had a lot of input on this as well, Tim, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And people were saying he had a lot of input on the Data East game as well, that you're so fond of, Tim. I know that's one of your favorite pinball machines.
Oh, all time.
You know, and that is one you never hardly see at festivals. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, and it brings a good price when you see one for sale, too.
Absolutely. I mean, so it's one of those that's the Data East version of Guns N' Roses, Tim, is it's rare just because you just don't see them around. I mean, I've seen maybe 2 of them in like the entire time I've been in this hobby with you, and so it's not something that you come by very often. So I think this is a welcome addition to the pinball community, Tim, having another Guns N' Roses game, because Tim, Guns N' Roses is a very beloved band, and there's a lot of collectors out there that I think are going to be very happy with this game. And just a couple of details: the standard edition features cartoon style cabinet artwork, while the premium shows an arrangement of tour posters. The playfield features 4 flippers on the upper 2 models and 3 on the standard. The 3 models include LED strips along the sides of the playfield. And Tim, I mean, it looks really nice. I really want to play it and give it a whirl. Hopefully we'll get to do that at some point. Of course, with coronavirus right now, it's kind of tough. But, we could make a trip to our distributor fun and Craig and probably give it a whirl if we really wanted to. But I don't know when I'm going to be up in that area next time. So, but it really looks fun, guys. And if any of you guys are buying one, let us know what you think of it. I'd love to hear some opinions on that. Tim, one of the sorry things about coronavirus, I mean, along with a million other things, but one of the really sorry things is that we hear about all these pinball announcements, but we can't put our hands on any of them because, we don't want to go anywhere. So,
Right.
So unfortunately, we haven't put hands on this, or even Avengers Infinity Quest, or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the new one. I haven't even touched one of those, and so we're so used to going to at least like 2 to 3 shows a year, and we haven't been to any because of everything that's going on. So it's changed the way everything works, Tim. But hopefully at some point we're gonna get to do some pinball and play some games. So, but now, Tim? Did you actually look at the playfield or anything? Do you have any thoughts on it? I was curious.
Yeah, I think it looks like it'll be pretty fast, which fits the title and stuff. And I very much would like to have one. That's probably bumped up my list. In fact, I'd trade a cooler arcade game.
Well, I'm sure you would.
Right
I think you're going to have to trade 10 of them for one if you really want to get it, though. But, it's pretty cool. And like I said, if any of you guys end up getting one, let us know what you think. And Tim, I'm going to go ahead and go on here. Now, Tim, Billy Mitchell has been in the news. No surprise probably to you. Okay. The first thing that we posted on the Facebook page was that he actually had a contest with people on, I think it was the Armchair Arcade service, or Antstream Arcade, excuse me. So Billy Mitchell had a Pac-Man competition on the Antstream Arcade service, and it allowed basically anyone to challenge Billy at Pac-Man from their home. And, Billy gave him some advice. He says, you have to have no complacency. With complacency, I don't know how you get there. Every time I die, I want to know why, and every answer helps me improve for the next time. If you don't consistently reflect upon yourself, I don't know how you'd get anywhere. So that's the advice he was given to people who wanted to play him. But I thought that was a cool promotion by Antstream Arcade to allow people to play Billy Mitchell at Pac-Man on their service. So, that was cool. But the big news with him involved the lawsuit. So, apparently, Tim, Billy Mitchell had enough evidence to move his case forward to an actual trial. And so here's the post from Ars Technica. It says, a Los Angeles County judge has ruled that Billy Mitchell has met the minimum merit standard necessary to move forward to trial with his defamation case against Twin Galaxies. Mitchell wrote in a statement on Twitter that I officially defeated Twin Galaxies in court in its misguided attempt to prevent me from having my day in court on my defamation claims. But speaking to Ars Technica, Twin Galaxies lawyer David Tashrodian says that Mitchell is making this seem like some great win on his part and that he will prevail at trial. This is not the case. And so here's the thing, Tim, is that Billy Mitchell was making this out like it was some big win, that the case was moving forward to trial, but this was no big win, right? This was it's basically, okay, you have enough evidence to go to trial. There was no big win out of it. The question is, will he prevail at trial? And Tim, there's a lot of evidence against him, correct?
Yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah, so it's not looking good for Billy Mitchell as far as winning his case against Twin Galaxies, but he's at least going to get his day in court, I guess you can say. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you posted on what's going on with Billy. But at this point, I don't think it's looking very good for him as far as actually winning the trial. Could be wrong, but I think the Twin Galaxies lawyer there says it better than I could, in the fact that he acts like it's some big win just to get a trial. But the thing is he will not prevail at that trial, more than likely, based on the evidence that we've seen. So good luck to Billy Mitchell and Twin Galaxies and all parties involved, and we'll just see how that all pans out. We'll be keeping you guys posted on any updates that happen. But Tim, like I said, I would be surprised if he ends up winning this case, but you never know. Weirder things have happened, correct?
Well,
Well, Tim, we are at the end of the show, and we want to remind everybody that we always are looking for arcade-related videos. If you want some free advertising for your YouTube channel, we're always looking for people to submit short videos about arcade-related topics. And if you want to send your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com, our staff will review it, and if we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure you put a plug-in for your channel so people will know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. And Tim, we basically did this at first to help people who may be on the edge of monetizing their channels, but they were arcade-related channels, and so this was to help them get more viewers and things like that. And so we're continuing to do that. If you have any arcade-related videos on your website and would like some promotion for them, then just send them over to us, or send your YouTube link over to us, and we'll feature it on the show if we feel like it fits, and hopefully get you some more people for your audience. So. And then, Tim, of course, we have our contact information here. We have our general email address at questions@arcaderepairtips.com, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. If you want it on the live show, make sure you put live show in the subject, and we'll make sure we mention it on the show. Again, that is questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and live show in the subject to get it mentioned on the show. We also have our YouTube page, Tim. Of course, if you're watching this live, you know where that is. But for those of you who may be listening to the audio or watching this after the fact, you can watch us on our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. Comments from the last live show will be covered on the next episode. So if you have any comments that are in that video will be covered on the next episode of the live show. So again, youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. If you want to watch all of our live shows there, our entire archives still live there. And then, of course, you can leave comments on our videos as well, and we'll try to cover those. And then we have our podcast email, Tim, podcast@arcaderepairtips.com. That goes to Eric and Rusty. And Tim, I haven't talked to Eric and Rusty in a while. I don't know how the Game Preserve is doing, but Tim, we know that business across all arcade places is rough right now, and so they're probably having a tough time of it. And their arcade, of course, is the Game Preserve. So if you guys are in the Houston, Texas area and want to check out an arcade, please check out the Game Preserve. It's a great arcade. But they're probably got their hands full with some stuff, so I haven't heard from them as far as shows and things go. But you can listen to the podcast episodes that they've done already on iTunes at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com, or on Stitcher at stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com. Tim, we're also on Spotify and pretty much every podcatcher that we have, and so no matter where you listen to your podcast, more than likely the question and answer podcast audio version is there. And of course, Tim, the live show audio also gets posted on those episodes. Not the after show. The after show you have to watch on YouTube, but the audio from the main live show gets posted on those as well. So if you guys want to check that out, again, itunes.arcaderepairtips.com, stitcher.arcaderepairtips.com, and if you feel so inclined, leave us a review. Tim, I don't think we've had a review since February. So if you're bored and just want to review us and give us 5 stars, then please do that. If you want to give us less than 5 stars, email us and let us know what we need to improve. Don't leave a review. So there you go. But anyway, guys, check out those pages if you want to subscribe to the podcast. Again, the live show audio feed gets posted there, and the podcast with Eric and Rusty get posted there as well. And then we have our social media pages. We have Facebook, and that's at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com. We want to thank Louie, and we want to thank Mark for doing such an excellent job posting stories and things. And Tim, I post there as well, and we've been doing stories and memes and all sorts of great stuff over the last week or two. And so I just want to thank Louie and Mark for their support, and Louie, of course, for being our live chat attendant tonight. Louie always does a great job posting links for you guys and keeping up with that and keeping everybody in line, because that's his job. Yeah. So Louie, thank you so much for the part that you play in the live show tonight. We appreciate it. And of course, all those news stories and memes and everything also get cross-posted to our Twitter feed, and that's at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com, twitter.arcaderepairtips.com, or just Arcade Repair on Twitter. If you look for that, that's us. And so you can you can basically get the same information you get on Facebook on the Twitter feed. The information is identical. The comments are a little different because there's different people on each platform. But the same stories get posted on both, regardless of whether you are on Facebook or on Twitter. But again, facebook.arcaderepairtips.com for Facebook and twitter.arcaderepairtips.com for Twitter. So, Tim, I think I've finished now with all of the contact information, everything. I think we're about ready to wrap up the live show. Now, we have the after show coming up here, Tim, and I think it's hard to have an after show without talking about the elephant in the room that we've already mentioned a couple of times tonight, and that is the election that happened here in the United States. So, Tim, I imagine we're going to say something about it. I don't know what. I don't know. I may have to insert my foot in my mouth a couple of times. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I don't think, as of right now, we still don't know who the winner is. So we'll find out eventually, whoever it is. So if you're listening to this after the fact, you may know. But right now, we don't know who the winner is, so we may discuss that a little bit. Of course, personal updates. What'd you do for Thanksgiving? Or what are you going to do for Thanksgiving, Christmas? What'd you do for Halloween? Love to hear what you guys think about that as far as live chat's concerned. We also have, we talked about some outfield stuff, Tim. We mentioned that. And, maybe some sports talk, cord cutting talk, some other things. So if you guys want some non-arcade repair talk, make sure you stay tuned for the after show immediately following this live show if you're watching us live for that. And so we're going to do all that great stuff. But Tim, is there anything you want to say before we sign off for the standard live show this evening?
No, it's nice to see a chat room full of people and asking a lot of questions and just participating. Thank you guys who donated and everybody else for just being here and making it such a fun show tonight.
Yeah, and I hope that we gave everybody a little bit of a respite from the political talk because, Tim, it seems like I turn on my TV and I can't avoid it. So, I mean, it's just everywhere that you look and, it's hard if you just want to not worry about it and just like, I'm kind of like this. I'm going to go to sleep. Wake me up when there's a winner.
Right.
It's like, I don't, that's kind of my philosophy. It's like, somebody's going to win this thing. Just let me know when that happens. I don't want to hear about all the in-between stuff. So, we'll find out hopefully soon. But hopefully, like I said, we gave you guys a little bit of a respite from all the political talk this evening. And guys, we can't thank you enough for joining us, Tim. So many people in the live chat tonight. That was so awesome. I mean, you guys are asking great questions. The live chat is as much a part of the show as me and Tim are, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, because without you guys, we have no show. And so we want to thank everybody that's been in the live chat, and especially Louis for keeping everybody in line like he always does. So, well, Tim, I guess on that note, we'll move on to the after show. If you guys are getting off here, not going on to the after show tonight, then we thank you guys for tuning in, and we hope to see you next month, Tim. December. We're at the end of 2020. Who would have thought?
It's crazy.
It's felt like the year that would never end. I promise.
April seemed like it was 8 months long, and then after that, it was gone.
Exactly. So that means, what that means next month? It means presents.
That's right. Oh, wow. I better get to shopping.
Exactly. So next month, me and Tim will exchange presents. And while I'm here, YouTube Punk is here. YouTube Punk sent us a gift, Tim.
Oh.
We received the gift. I have it. We have received it. It is not open. And it will remain closed until the December live show episode.
Okay.
But he wanted to send it early because shipping is really weird right now, and I don't blame him for that. But we'll get to see what YouTube Punk comes up with, or what he sent us. I believe it came from a place you may be familiar with, Tim. Paradise Arcade Shop.
Oh, yeah.
You know that place?
I do know this place.
Okay, so we'll have to see what he sent along, but we'll open that. You guys will find out. December episode. It's a surprise to me and Tim. It's going to be a surprise to you too. But we'll find out on the December live show. And you'll get to find out what me and Tim are going to do with each other. Tim, I will drop a package off at your house, and you can do the same to me, put it on the front porch, and then we'll open them on the live show, so it'll be like a Zoom Christmas or whatever. But we'll do that on the December episode, and we'll get to find out what you did for Thanksgiving and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, December, Tim. We're almost nearing the end. Round of applause, everybody. You almost made it to 2021. We're close. Hey, and Olympics next year. Right? Hopefully.
I hope
so too. So, I mean, I'm ready for all the stuff I didn't do this year to happen next year. So, but anyway, guys, so make sure you join us in December for the live show. We'll do our regular gift exchange like we always do and have a good time. But thank you guys for joining us tonight. Stick around for the after show if you're watching this live if you can. And other than that, I guess we're ready to go, Tim. So the only thing that can be said is here at Arcade Repair Tips, when you fix the game,
you play the game.
Take care, everybody, and we'll see you in the December episode or at the after show tonight. Take care. Bye-bye.
So anyway, you know Matt.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
Okay, and we're back. Are we back? Are we back? I think we're back. Say something, Tim.
I'm still stuck in the game.
Yeah, and you're still back. Awesome. I tell you what, I thought the live show went great tonight, guys. I want to thank everybody who was with us and everybody who stuck around, Tim, because golly, you guys made the show. For sure. This was a great show. Tim, Wasteland Warrior was asking us what we're drinking and munching on. What are you drinking there, Tim?
This is Dr. Pepper, Texas favorite here.
Absolutely.
And
so
I bought my wife some keto, carb-free cookies today, and I wanted to try one, so that's what I'm eating right now.
How are they?
They're good, really good. It's a place in Brownsboro. There's a bakery, sells all keto stuff.
Sounds good. I am just drinking water. I don't know. I guess you can mistake it for vodka, but no, it's just water. I try to drink like a gallon of water a day. I'm a water guy, and so if you see me at work or you see me at home, more than likely I've got a bottle of water that's pretty close by. And especially when you're talking for 3 hours, it's kind of tough to. You got to keep your voice well hydrated as well. So, but no, and I'm not munching on anything. We ate dinner a little bit ago. Had pizza usually we get pizza on live show nights just so the kids have something to eat. So they've been doing that. YouTube Punk says Dublin Dr. Pepper for life. You have a Dublin or a regular?
Oh man, this is regular, but Dublin Dr. Pepper is definitely interesting. That is a good YouTube video. I mean, Netflix documentary.
I think it's Prime. I think it's a Prime video.
Prime? Oh yeah, that's a good Prime. That's
there's a documentary on it, right?
I drink about a gallon of water a day. It has iced tea mixed in with it.
Yeah, and like I said, that was something that I started. Golly, probably when I really got serious about working out and things, and I just have always done that. So I carry when I go to work, I actually have a physical gallon of like a milk gallon I take with me, and I just make sure that's drunk by the end of the day. So there you go. But Tim, how'd your Halloween go? I'm curious.
It was pretty good. Like I said, we're in a new neighborhood, and we bought a big thing of candy, and then we ate about half of it the week before. And so I felt bad, so I bought even more candy. So we were really ready. And then my friend Mike wanted to know, would we meet him for dinner? We thought, well, it's early. So we went to eat, and come to find out, I think most people trick-or-treated before dark, so around 5 or 6. Did y'all give out candy, John?
So we did not, and we didn't go trick-or-treating either. We just wanted to keep everybody safe, and Tim, we're still doing the live show remote. I mean, my wife's a nurse, and every time she goes to work, she's exposed to it. And so, it's one of those things. We have not gotten it as far as we know here, but it's one of those things where you don't want to chance it. And so we and look, giving out candy on Halloween is like one of my favorite things, and going trick-or-treating on Halloween. Typically what we do is we'll take our kids out early and go trick-or-treating around our neighborhood, and then we'll come back, usually around 7, and then we'll hand out candy for the rest of the night. I love doing that. I mean, Tim, our neighborhood is covered with kids. I mean, you see those pictures of thousands of kids on the street, and you can't even drive through them. That's usually how our neighborhood is, but this year it was not. We had our light off and everything, but we still had 2 groups of kids ring our doorbell. And I have a video doorbell. So the first group was a group of 15 kids, no mask, no anything, just coming up, ringing the doorbell, and then leaving. The second one was a group of looked like a dad and 2 girls, and they had masks on, and she rang the doorbell and then stepped back 10 feet. So I guess she expected us to chunk the candy at her. I don't know, but they were safer about it. Tim, we're just trying to take the precautions here. So what we did for Halloween is my mom kind of set up a trick or treating route inside her house. That my parents did. So where my mom, my dad, my sister-in-law, and my wife all handed candy out to the kids behind doors, and me and my brother took the kids around to the individual doors inside the house. So it was good. It was different. Like I said, I absolutely love handing out candy on Halloween. It's one of my favorite things to do. And Tim, I usually get the full-size bars, just saying. I love handing out full-size bars to kids. We did do a drive-through trunk-or-treat at our church, and I was dressed up like the Riddler. and I got to interact with people. So I got to give them candy, ask them riddles, and that was fantastic. I had a great time doing it, and I had a mask. I had a mask on. I had gloves on. So I mean, I was pretty well protected. But that was the closest I got to a traditional Halloween this year. So.
Oh, I didn't tell you we had a contest at work, right?
No, you didn't tell me that.
Send you my picture?
I don't think so.
I was a taco.
A taco. Yeah, I'm gonna turn you up a little bit. I can't hear you. Okay.
Yeah, I was a taco.
I saw through the drive-through. I saw 3 kids come through. One was a taco. It was a family of 3 kids. One was the taco. One was an avocado, and one was, I think, a bowl of salsa. So.
Okay.
So they had the whole coordination thing going on. But let's see what we got here. No candy cannons. No candy cannons for me. I didn't want to. I was scared I'd poke somebody's eye out with a piece of candy. Let's see. Someone was giving away comic books, is what YouTube Punk says. Oh, Taco Tuesday, Tim. Yeah, now that's the thing. Yeah, I was about to say, you guys know. I mean, you guys, Taco Tuesday's huge for Dairy Queen, right?
Oh, huge.
I mean, you guys, I always, if I drive by Dairy Queen on Taco Tuesday, the line's out the drive-through.
Crazy, busiest day of the week. Whoever come up with that idea had a great idea.
Yeah. $1 tacos, right? On Tuesdays, is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, golly. So you have anybody come through and order 20 or 30 of them?
Oh, every day.
Wow.
Every week. Usually they'll call ahead, but 20, 30, 40, easily, all the time.
Golly, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what about your Thanksgiving, Christmas plans, Tim, right now? I mean, how are those looking for you?
Well, the family wants to go to West Texas, but I have some time off. Something that we didn't talk about yet, John, I would like to bring up in the live show because some of the viewers that are still listening, Mike can help me through some of this. This will be Landon had left for the military. So this was our first kind of Halloween without him. He is in San Diego in quarantine. He's joined the Marines, but he won't be here Christmas or Thanksgiving. So the family, they may go to West Texas to see their grandmother, but it looks like I will only be off one day, the day of Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow.
That doesn't leave me much room to do much of anything. So I may just run over to Louisiana and see my sisters for just the day and come back either the next day or leave Wednesday night and come back Thursday night or something like that.
So how far west are we talking about when we say West Texas?
They're going about 8 hours, 7 or 8 hours. 7
El Paso's like a hot spot right now.
Yeah, no, they're going to north of there, closer to Lubbock.
Okay. That's not bad.
Yeah, up in where Texas Tech is. Isn't that where Lubbock? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, yeah, where they're going is out on the ranch. It's the next door neighbor is probably a quarter mile or half a mile down the road. So they'll be pretty social distance out there with just a few family members and stuff. Sure. But grandmother's like 92, so you got to figure we need to go see her as much often as possible. But I won't get to go. I'll probably just run to Louisiana and back. And then Christmas, you said being here, the new company and everything, I do have some time off now that I could take, but why I brought it to the military, I'm saving that so we can go to California in February and see Landon graduate from the Marine Corps and maybe spend a few days out there in San Diego.
Sounds good. Yeah, you've been out there before with Chuck E. Cheese, right?
Yeah, I have. That nobody else in our family has. So, and I've never been to San Diego.
Oh, that's true.
I was from L.A. upwards, San Jose, San Francisco. San Diego, they say, is really neat and closer to Disneyland. So maybe things will be open back up by then, and maybe we can go to Disneyland or something fun too.
Yeah, I don't know, Tim. I mean, right now it seems like California is pretty adamant about not letting those theme parks open up. So I wouldn't get your hopes up too much.
Well, it's open by February, but you never know. I would have thought that we'd all been back to normal by now, and look, here it is,
We're on. This is wave 3, if you want to call it that. I feel like wave 2 was Memorial Day. This is like wave 3, and I mean, I don't know if you saw yesterday was like the highest total of positive cases that we've had ever.
I did
over 100,000.
I do think there's been a lot of cases. one thing I've noticed is maybe not as severe of cases.
So we've gotten better at treating it. So even though cases are going up, deaths are going down. So like when back in March, April timeframe, I think the death rate, if you were hospitalized, was 25%, 30%. And now the death rate, if you're hospitalized, is like 7%. So, I mean, we've gotten a lot better at treating it, but it's still not something you want to give.
For sure. And hope that it does go away and that, we are able to get back to normal. But then again, I don't know that some things may not ever go back to quite the way they were. We're just going to have to adapt and get used to some things. And
I think you're right, Tim. And so, I mean, I want to, from the experts that I've seen, I mean, a lot of people are saying, like, the pandemics, if you look through history, it takes about 2 years to get back to normal. So it may take all of 2021 before we're really back, depending on how fast the vaccine comes out, I think.
Right.
So we'll see. But speaking, unfortunately, about death, Tim, there was a big death that kind of affected us so much that I felt compelled to go ahead and put a post on Facebook and on Twitter, and also a slide for the live show here. But I'm going to go ahead and put this up here. So Tony Lewis, bassist and singer for the British pop rockers The Outfield, dead at 62. And this is from Rolling Stone, Tim. And the post that we put up was very sad to hear about the passing of Tony Lewis, lead singer of The Outfield. Tim and I are big fans of the group. One of the gigs that put them on the map was King Biscuit Flower Hour? Yeah. From here in Tyler, where we live. If you've never listened to their stuff, Beyond Your Love, take a moment tonight and do it. Great stuff. R.I.P. Tony, you will be missed. And Tim, I also have a link here, and I think I put it below in the notes too, to the King Biscuit Flower Hour recording from Tyler, Texas back in 1986. And so you should listen to that because it's one of their more famous concerts that they had. Tim, I think that was right before Your Love really hit big for them.
Yeah, or it was kind of at that peak of, it just hit it just right, where we were a smaller town that got them, but it was really starting to get popular.
Now, the picture that you see there is an actual copy of the signed vinyl record that I have. And so, I bought that years ago, and it used to hang up in Tim's game room, and now it doesn't hang in my game room, but it's actually in the closet. I need to hang it up somewhere. But Tim, The Outfield was like what we listened to when we were working on games, especially when we first started working on games. Because you introduced me to The Outfield. I had heard Your Love, but I really wasn't familiar with them beyond that. And when I started going through their back catalog, I just realized how good they were. It was more than just Your Love, really. And just their sound was so good. Their harmonies were very tight. It sounds almost like there's more than 3 people in the band when you hear them sing. And like I said, they've just become a band that's near and dear to my heart. And because you introduced me to them, and they were near and dear to your heart, so.
Yeah, it's like, guys, if you haven't really listened, Your Love, of course, is there. Everybody remembers that opening line, Josie's on a vacation far away, come around and talk it over. That's Your Love's, I Don't Want to Lose Your Love Tonight. But that was probably their most popular hit. But probably if I had to list that in my top 10 Outfield songs, it'd probably rank around number 5 or number 6. There is actually some songs I really liked that I thought would have been even chart toppers had they been a little bit more well known before Your Love came out.
I like Say It Isn't So better than Your Love. And that one charted, but it wasn't near the hit for them.
Right.
And then their greatest hits CD has some songs that were unreleased. Beginnings, the best of the Outfield. And so if you want to get a good idea of what the Outfield was, I do recommend Beginnings, the best of the Outfield, because it has more than just their hits on it. It also has some B cuts that were really good. But Winning It All is a great song. A lot of people don't realize from the Outfield. I was trying to think what else, Tim.
Oh gosh,
we're missing a ton of them. But there's so many great songs, and what is Every Time You Cry? Is that it?
Every Time You Cry, yeah.
Every Time You Cry is a great song. Golly, guys, there are so many good Outfield songs. And so go through their back catalog. And Tim, the cool thing is that if you're discovering this music for the first time, it's like discovering an 80s band you never heard of. And I know Your Love is so it's so popular, and it seems like everybody's heard of it. But man, there's so many great songs that they did. So again, The Outfield and Play Deep was their big album with Your Love on it. That's a great album. But Beginning's the best of The Outfield. Look that up on Spotify if you just want to. Here's the thing, though, Tim, I noticed about that album. Spotify doesn't have all the songs from that album. It doesn't have the B-cut versions, which I like some of those B-cuts so much. So you may have to actually get a physical copy of that to really hear it in its full entirety. But Beginning's the best of The Outfield. Great stuff. And you can check out that concert, the King Biscuit Flower Hour, right here from where me and Tim are pretty much located in East Texas. Just great stuff, Tim. Man.
I like, my favorite song by The Outfield is called All the Love in the World.
All the Love in the World's a great one.
Since You've Been Gone.
Since You've Been Gone's a good one.
Now. Alone With You. Those are some good hits right there. Probably some of my favorites.
So on Beginnings, they have a B-cut that's called Should Have Been Me. And I love that song. And it is not released, I think, on any other album of theirs. But it starts, the Outfield's so good at that first lyric. And the very first lyric of that is, I'm broken inside.
Yeah.
It's too late, you're gone. And that's such like every Outfield song, the first lyric is going to hit you over the head with a bat and make you go, man, I really want to hear why this guy is the way he is. I mean, you mentioned Your Love. Josie's on a vacation far away. Like, when you hear that, it's just like, okay, well, you left me hanging. What do I need? I need to know the rest of it. And so they were so good at getting the hook into you and then leading you on into the rest of the song from there. So, again, very sad to hear about the passing of Tony Lewis. He will be missed, and a great band in The Outfield. And Tim, Tony Lewis had a solo song that charted not long ago, like maybe just 2 years ago. Wow. So they were he was still making music up to that point, but great band, great music. Check them out for sure.
Well, if you might remember, Jonathan, at one time they were supposed to come to Dallas, and I was going to try to get us some tickets, and they had, I think it was the drummer that had a serious car wreck, and so they canceled the tour, and we never got to go, and we didn't get to see them, so we were a little disappointed. But hey, yeah, what's you bringing me? We got snack interruption time, bringing snack food.
Oh, you're getting a delivery. You see, everybody wants to know what you're eating anyway.
Oh, man, I got like a chalupa or something. Some Taco Bell.
Hey, Taco Bell! Food of champions, man.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, Tim, we're to our investment talk. Anything you want to talk about? A lot of craziness in the markets lately. So
it has been super crazy. Our investment stock is gone up quite a bit. You remember it was down to about $5 last time. It's up to almost $7 now. They had their earnings report, which was good. So our initial $10 back up to about $7. I've been playing it real conservatively because of the election, and but some stocks that I did invest in a while back, Abbott Industries is doing tremendous. My longer-term stocks are doing better, but I definitely have been playing it safe. One thing, of course, we'll talk about the election some. I noticed the stock market really was booming today, and a lot of people are speculating why. And I think what makes the stock market really do good is a balance of power. When they found out that it looked like if Joe Biden is our president, that we're still going to have a Republican Senate, that to the stock market actually means more stability than Democrats taking control of everything or Republicans taking control of everything. It actually is better for the stock market. Now, there are some sectors that I think favor Trump more, and there are some sectors that favor Biden. And, the sector I favor is the one that is green. So
you're going to be like Jim Cramer. I always like to say there's a bull market somewhere.
Yeah, I don't marry any stock, and there's always stocks on the worst day making money.
Let me mention, though, so here it is. So if Trump gets reelected, I think the tech sector is going to take a big hit because there's going to be, I think there'll be a lot of litigation against them from the federal government over some of the stuff that they've been doing. If Joe Biden becomes president, I think the oil industry is going to take a hit because he's already talked about how he wants to. Yeah, he wants to do away with some of the different. He's got a more clean energy focus, so he's going to do away with some of the oil things that we're doing. So, I mean, when we're talking about who becomes president, those are the kind of ways it affects the market, correct?
It affects it greatly, but at the same time, if Joe Biden becomes president, I may invest more in wind power or electric cars. It will just change my focus a little bit more. If Trump is reelected, then I'm hoping that the oil and gas industry will come back. Employs a lot of people here in Texas. So we'll just have to see. But every day, there's some stock that makes a lot of money every day. I've been doing more watching the insider buying. I know I sent you a couple of messages. Insider buying, it makes you wonder when they start buying huge chunks or something good coming up. And I think some of these Pfizer and Abbott Industries and some of those that are fighting the coronavirus, I think as that vaccine begins to come out, we'll see some profit there too.
Absolutely, no doubt. So I think you're right, Tim. And I don't know if you. Okay, I'll say one thing. I didn't do many stock transactions this month, but I will say this. Did you see the car company revenue? Mm-hmm. Not just Ford. You sent me Ford. Did you see GM?
Yeah.
How in the world are they selling cars? People are apparently buying cars. If you have bought a car during COVID, let me know, Tim, because it seems like people are buying cars right now, and I don't know if that's the smartest move.
I don't know either, but they definitely had on their balance book looked a lot better than it has in a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, I understand like people are talking about at the beginning of the coronavirus how they're kind of like, it's kind of like your own little shelter in place that you can take anywhere, right, is a car. And so maybe there are a lot of first-time car buyers out there that are buying. I mean, and Tim, they have been offering great incentives. I mean, right now you can get like 72, 84 month no interest financing, and you'll get maybe 3 months of no payments too. But Tim, what happens when, like I said, what happens when those people can't make their car payments? Because right now it seems like there's a lot of people struggling to make car payments.
Yeah, well, at some point somebody's got to pay, right? And they start going into a lending problem, then we're going to see some of these profits fall really quick.
Exactly. So they may be selling cars, but they're obviously selling them on credit. And so the question is that are these people who are buying these cars going to be able to continue to pay the credit arms of these auto manufacturers?
Right.
So we'll see. I don't know. But it is interesting. So, Tim, let's move into the election. Did you vote?
Yeah, I early voted.
You early voted? I early voted too. So here in Texas, Tim, you had basically 3 weeks to do it.
Yeah, and it took about 5 minutes. Just went in and, ours is electronic. And then printed a ballot. When we put the ballot in, I thought it was very simple, very easy process. I always try to vote unless I'm just deathly ill or something, And I think that a lot of people don't feel like their vote matters. And there may be some truth to that in some areas of the country, it seems like. But at the same time, it really does. If you don't vote, don't complain. Because, you do need to get out and show your support for whoever you're supporting, I just wish we could get back to some open and honest debates without name calling. And we don't publicize who we vote for, Jonathan, or anything like that, because we know that right now, no matter who wins the election, half the country is going to be upset.
Agreed. Yeah. And Tim, it's interesting. So the second thing I have in here is, of course, I voted early. And when I went, it was about a 5 minutes thing. I literally got in and out in about 5 minutes. It was quick. They had everything socially distanced, which I appreciated. They gave us a little finger plastic thing to put on so we could do the touchscreen. Ours is touchscreen here. And then you threw that away and you put the vote in the machine and it worked. It worked well. So, I mean, it was very easy to do it. But Tim, what do you think about all the results reporting and all this kind of stuff and the fact that we're still kind of up in the air? Isn't that crazy, right?
Yeah, I posted on my Facebook today. We can have American Idol winner projected 130 million votes and 5 minute commercial break. How come we're still counting votes?
Yeah, it really is. It really is crazy. I wish we could figure out a better way to count these things. It just seems like it shouldn't take as long. But you got to remember, Tim, that this is probably unusual in a lot of ways because it is a mail-in ballot year for the most part because of all of the COVID stuff. There's a lot of people who didn't want to actually go to a who wanted to go to a voting place to actually cast their vote. They wanted to mail it in. And so, that's part of the reason why it's taking so long is because they're having to go through all the mail-in ballots. I understand that. And I think we all realized that it was going to take a while. But Tim, if you looked at the polls, and I like looking at polls, this thing wasn't supposed to be even close. Like, Biden was supposed to have this thing in hand. It's supposed to be a done deal. And the fact that it's so freaking close is amazing to me because it seems like every pollster got it wrong.
Yeah, and they did, and I don't know if it was on purpose or they're just that incompetent, or I think that Trump polls funny. I think that a lot of people are kind of, how can I say it, they're kind of hidden Trump supporters, or maybe they just didn't like Biden as much, and they had to choose a lesser, in their opinion, of two evils. So I think there was a little bit of that going on, like people didn't come out and put a big yard sign up, but maybe they felt like that for either candidate, I think we saw a little bit of that. They're hidden people that just nobody knew how they were going to vote, or they didn't care to tell you.
Right, exactly. I think
I'm kind of that way. Somebody asked me at work, well, who'd you vote for? And I said, honestly, I don't it's my business, and I don't just tell everybody. I think if you know me well enough, you probably know that I am a Kanye West fan, and that I just didn't think he had much of a chance. But, you might know who I voted for. But at the same time, because it has become such, I've never seen a time in my life where just people seem like they can't get along if you're across the aisle with somebody else. And to be honest, I felt that way too about some people that have different political views than me. I thought they were kind of ugly towards me or anybody else, basically the definition of racism is when you group one just because of somebody's skin, somebody's color, maybe even their political party. You say, well, they must be this way because they vote for this person. Well, it's not necessarily the truth. And so it's been a really tough year politically. Now, I will say this much, that in the local elections, I know you have a neighbor that I voted for, and there's some people that I thought that in the local elections I'm pretty excited about. And, it is what it is. I just want to feel like it's an honest and fair election. I have always been a big proponent of the Electoral College, because to me it keeps 4 or 5 cities from controlling the whole country. But to be honest, I would give up the Electoral College if everybody went to, you had to vote in person with a fingerprint ID. I feel like there is some corruption on both sides going on somewhere, because how you magically come up with, 100 and some thousand votes and the other candidate 0, or all of a sudden, you got this rush of votes out of nowhere. These stuff is not coming out of nowhere. You knew about votes, and why they didn't count some of these votes beforehand, I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing to me as a country. Florida, used to be the laughing stock of the nation, Jonathan, and what they did, had their own results in. No problem. Them old people went out and voted and got it done and got it counted.
Well, and the reason why Florida is that way though is because they lived through 2000, Tim, and they figured out what worked and what didn't. So I'm hoping that these states that are still up in the air, that still haven't been called yet, I hope they learn from this too and figure out ways to streamline their voting service so that they can be like Florida next time. So
yeah, hopefully so.
So, Florida, you're right. They cleaned up their act. 2000 was a mess for Florida. It was such a big deal. Yeah. And now, not a problem. Got it all handled. But the reason why they got it all handled is because they learned. It's like, hey, wait a minute. We need to fix this. We can't have this hanging Chad thing happening anymore, whatever the case may be. And so they fixed all of that. Thank goodness. So I hope that these other states that are having the same issues are able to fix that. But, Tim, we may not have an issue like this as much in the future because this is unique in the fact that we had coronavirus. We had so many mail-in ballots, Yeah,
you have to take that in consideration. Plus, you look at my son just turned 18 in August, and we couldn't go down and get his driver's license because of Corona. So on the computer, we did his driver's license update to 18 years old, and we registered him to vote. When he went to vote, though, he wasn't registered. Now, in Texas, you have to register quite a bit ahead of time. Some states will say, oh, you're not registered? Let's register you right now and you can vote. Why don't we do that? Because he didn't get to vote, and he's been looking forward to it for a couple years now, just the opportunity to vote. And now he's gone in the military. He's serving our country, and yet he still wasn't able to vote. And so some stuff needs to change. Or you got people that are living here, they're legal, they may not have citizenships, but they're here legally, and they have their papers and their documents, and they're paying taxes. Why can't they vote? I mean, they should have some say-so in the laws and things that affect them. So, you know, I can really see some changes need to be made across the aisles. I really think that those who come to the center are really popular right now. And those on the far left, or the very far left or the very far right, need to go away. And a lot of them are dying off or getting outvoted or leaving. I do see that there is a central, but in fact, a couple of people said they were already going to run for Speaker of the House because they felt like that Pelosi was so far out there they didn't even want to associate with her anymore. And I thought this might be a good thing. Maybe we needed a little, when the country is 50.8 to 49.2 or whatever the percentages are split, then we have to find those people that are in the middle somewhere to work together.
Well, and Tim, you're right. I think that's what it comes down to, is that, like you mentioned, this may be the closest election that we have ever had as far as presidential elections are concerned here in this country. And whoever wins has to realize that, wait a second, there are literally half the people who did not vote for me. And so you have to keep that in mind. And Tim, the thing that I feel like, especially in recent years, that we've had a hard time doing is, it's been hard for both parties to work together to get bipartisan legislation done. And that's something that really has to happen now, because if it doesn't happen, I don't think it's going to be a deadlock. Basically, nothing's going to get through. So,
and that's my biggest fear, is that, it's not that somebody's going to change and we're all going, I think we're already been through so much change and things that who's going to unite? Who's going to step across the aisle on either side and make something, that we can be proud of and raise our kids in a better place, If we can't go back to have an honest, open debate or work out our differences or even compromise, I don't have to get my way all the time. How about what am I willing to give up,
Right, and here's the thing that I think that most people need to realize. I think a vast majority of people in this election, like you mentioned, you had people on the far sides of the right, the far sides of the left, that were probably very proud to pull their lever for their party candidate. But then you have people in the middle who and I think most of us are this, we held our nose and we pulled the lever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I didn't vote for this person because he was my first pick. I voted for this person because he just happened to agree with a little bit more of what I wanted than the other guy did. And so, it's not like I think the vast majority of us were not very enthusiastic about the person we were pulling the lever for to begin with. It's like we held our nose, we pulled the lever because it was the only option that we had, or it was the option that was closest to what we thought. But just because I vote for that particular candidate for president doesn't mean I'm 100% in agreement with that guy. In fact, I probably am only 30% in agreement with that guy. And so...
And it also doesn't mean if my candidate doesn't win, I can't root for the other guy to succeed. I don't want anybody to fail.
Right.
And that's, we got to get past this point. Well, I hope he blows it next time my candidate, or, 4 years. I don't want to wait 4 years for things to straighten out and let's get past this virus. I want it to happen as soon as possible. And, we've got to quit. It's okay if somebody I didn't choose succeeds.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. YouTube Punk's making a lot of points about Florida, and I'm not real informed on what the process there was for like counting the ballots and things like that. So my rule, if I was thinking about this, like if I was doing the mail-in balloting, I would put on the mail-in ballot must be postmarked by 3 days before the election.
Right.
And if it is not postmarked by 3 days before election day, I'm not counting it. Because that's an illegitimate ballot. If I was doing it, this is me saying election law, I would literally put that on every mail-in ballot. I would say must be postmarked 3 days before election day so we can count it. If it is postmarked after that, I'm not going to count it because I want results now. You know what I'm saying? I want the results on election day is what I want.
Yeah. Why did so many people wait till the last minute? If you knew you were going to mail it in, see, that's what I do agree that a mail-in system leads can promote fraud, and it's kind of like, but it's just like this, Jonathan. But you also, if you're going to commit fraud, you got to do it secretly, kind of. And I don't think it's that secretly. If somebody's stealing money out of one of my cash registers and $5 is missing, they could say, well, maybe you miscounted, maybe something comes up. If every single change in there and every penny in that thing till is gone, they say, here you get zero. And I'm like, where's $1,000.38? And they're going, I don't know. It's pretty obvious they took it.
YouTube Punk is saying that maybe it was UPS didn't deliver them on time. And, and that could be the case. I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea how all that went down in Florida. I'm not familiar with the process at all. But like I said, if I was going to make the rules, I like the way we do it in Texas. Like if you want a mail-in ballot, you have to request it. Okay, so you get a request for the mail-in ballot, they send it to you. And then I would make sure that on the envelope it says postmarked 3 days before the election. If it's not postmarked 3 days before the election, we're not going to count it. And just and if you're the person voting, make sure that you go onto the post office and get it postmarked 3 days before the election. At least. Because you can get a postmark before that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, but make sure you get it down there and make sure that they get it at that time. I mean, the USPS has not been doing the greatest job lately, Tim. I will say that. I mean, in fact, just the other day, we did, I ordered something from Amazon, and it was supposed to be here next day. It got here a week later. So obviously, USPS has not been doing the best job of delivering things lately. But you have to have a mail-in balloting system because there's going to be people who just can't get to polls. I totally understand that. Tim, here's the thing though. I did know a man who's got cancer. He's too sick to really get out, but some of his friends took him to the curbside voting, which we also have here in Texas. Actually took him to curbside voting, and he voted. And they bring a machine out to you, and you do all the stuff. They verify it's you, and then you print out your ballot, and they feed it in the machine. And, so, I mean, you also have curbside balloting available to you. But I do think you need a mail-in system, but I think you need to make sure that those ballots are in by election day, just so you can count them, you know?
Yeah, we shouldn't have to go on and on days and days and days like this without an answer. Right.
But yeah, like I said, so the only thing about mail-in balloting, and he's saying this, YouTube Punk says he lost stuff too. We've lost stuff too. And I mean, here's the thing. Do you want to trust, I understand that may be your only option to vote, but if you're voting that way, get it in, like you mentioned, Tim, get it in early and make sure they have enough time to deliver it, because we all know how reliable USPS is. I mean, and look, it's not a knock on them. Okay, we have a lot of friends who work for the United States Postal Service, but it is such a huge mechanism, Tim, that stuff gets lost. It does. There's no, you can't avoid stuff getting lost. It happens. So, you've got to, if you are gonna mail in ballot, just make sure you mail in very quickly. So.
Right. Order the part to the rarest game you have, almost guaranteed to go.
Man, yeah, look at Stan. Stan, remember he had like a dragon. We've talked about this. He had all those Dragon's Lair parts that get lost. Remember that?
Right.
Now, you can't replace those, people. Dragon's Lair parts. Right. So, that's my, and I understand, like, that's why, like, they may not be counting ballots in Florida is because they weren't postmarked. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't even really looked into all of that. But, if I'm a state election official, I want a result on election night. That should be my goal. And and to do that as legal and fair as possible. And I hope that's what Florida did. Like I said, I'm not privy to the details or anything, but they did have a result on election night. I know that. So like I said, I hope it was all legal and everything like that, because I'm not familiar with their processes, but it's just
And then the news media in a rush between each other to make who's going to make a call. How can you make a call? It's like 8% of the vote is in, and they call in a state. You're like, hold on. we get it that that's probably a red state or a blue state, but at least make it a little bit drama to get it to 75% or something before you just make a call. Did you feel like that, John? It was like some calls were so early. It's like,
well, it's hard with media because you want to be the first to make the call, Tim. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like if you're, you don't want to let ABC or NBC or Fox or CBS to beat you to that call. You want to be the first to be the call. And so I think
honest, and I think that's where we're losing a lot of media.
Right, but it's hard. It's really hard to. I think it's really hard to like I said, for a news organization, because everybody wants to be that first one to call whatever the state is. There's a lot of competition for that, and so by doing that, like I said, it's hard because you want to be the first one with the information. You want to make the call as soon as possible, but at the same time, you don't want to be wrong. And I think that's the thing. So I mean, I don't blame them necessarily for sometimes calling things a little earlier, but I think you're right in the fact that they should be absolutely certain before they necessarily give a state to somebody, because especially with the margins being as close as they are in this election. But again, Tim, the polls showed this wasn't supposed to be close, which is why I'm still confused why we're still counting ballots and it's so close. So this was supposed to be done. But we'll find out. We'll find out eventually, and I'm just over here with my hands up saying, hey, you guys wake me up when you have a winner, and we'll move on. So, but anyway, anything else, Tim?
Well, as I posted earlier, if we'd even the Chuck E. Cheese ticket counter could have counted all these votes by now.
We need to get some ticket eaters. Tim, I am 100% for doing a ticket eater. Like, we just have 2 ticket eaters, one that says Biden, one that says Trump. Just feed your ticket into the right one, and, we'll just count them that way, right?
Yeah, simple problem solved.
Hey, ticket eaters are, I bet your ticket eaters are pretty accurate.
Yeah, well, mine were.
Oh, yeah, you had to clean them. Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, got to keep them maintained.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, I mean, I don't care, like, how, I just, like I said, I'm just ready for them to call a winner. Just call a winner. Just call a winner. I don't care who it is. Yeah. Just call a winner. Let us know who won, and that way we can all move on. I can move on with all this, and it's done. And part of me thinks they're not calling a winner just because they want more ratings.
That could be true.
Because everybody knows as soon as the election's over, nobody's going to watch news anymore. Nobody's going to watch the news anymore. You're not going to watch the news anymore. You won't care. So, I mean, it's like, hey, we're going to... It's kind of like when you have the audience, you just suck them in a little bit longer. It's like, hey, Pennsylvania, just take your time counting those ballots, man, whatever, well, every day, every hour you go, that's another hour's worth of ratings for us, kind of thing, so...
Nevada can account all these millions of dollars in gambling money, but they can't count votes. What's wrong with it?
So, anyway, guys, that's enough election talk. I'm done with it. I was sick of doing it before we did it, but anyway, at least I got out some of my quibbles and things like that, and you did too. So we're good. Wanderlust Rider says make them both fight each other in Street Fighter 2. Yeah, if it comes down to a tie, if it's a tie electoral college, Tim, I decree that's how they should figure out the winner.
That sounds good.
So that's it right there. Now, somebody said bike race for it. That's YouTube Punk, by the way. So there you go. Yeah, we'll figure out some way. If there's a tie, we'll figure out some way to break the tie. I'm sure we got some good ideas. Tim, let's move on real quick. Sports talk. Did you watch any of the World Series?
No. I watched maybe a half of one game and just didn't interest me.
There was some good baseball if you're a baseball fan, and I am a diehard.
I was for the Dodgers, I will say that.
Yeah, good for the Dodgers. There were some great games between them and the Rays. I figured the Dodgers were going to pull it out, but I really enjoyed watching it. And good on the Dodgers, man. They got screwed by the Astros. I mean, I hate to say that, but I mean, with all the stuff that went on with the code breaking. And Tim, right now I'm listening to a podcast that's all about the Astros and like that season. It's called The Edge. If you guys are interested in that, you should listen to this podcast. But they got screwed, and so good on the Dodgers for winning. I mean, the Astros with their little code breaker thing. I mean, Tim, I was watching when Yu Darvish was pitching in 2017 against the Astros, and I thought to myself, how in the world are they laying off these pitches? You know how they were laying off those pitches? They knew what was coming.
They knew what was coming.
And that makes me so mad. So good on the Dodgers. Like, they got their World Series. It should have been in 2017, in my opinion. But, and I rooted for the Astros in 2017, wanted them to win. But, after all that stuff came out, man, you just can't root for them anymore. But anyway. Tim, watching any NFL college football?
Well, we're Cowboys fans, even though we hate to admit it. And they're like watching the Bad News Bears. So be honest,
Did you watch the Monday night game, or is that Sunday night? Did you watch the Sunday night game with the third string quarterback guy? I forget his name.
Yeah, Danucci.
Yeah, Danucci. Man, he looked like It looked like if you took just like a college quarterback and put him in, or even a high school quarterback and put him into an NFL game. I mean, it was highly entertaining that way. Right. So, and you can tell, like, he had no awareness of when guys were going to hit him, which was like the funniest thing. So, like, when he got hit, man, he got hit. So, I hope they keep him in there just for entertainment value.
Yeah, it was kind of like the popcorn guy was going popcorn, and they're like, "Hey, go get in the game." He's like, "Okay, just a minute. I'm going to fill my popcorn."
The water boy, Tim. It's the water boy. Come to life.
I think the water boy would outplayed him. So that's been kind of a joke, you know. And so I just nothing political or nothing, just kind of lost interest. We're that bad. It's just not worth watching. Then of course, you know, I'm an Oklahoma Sooner fan, and they are streaky. They've been playing. The college system is, you know, affected by the 1 week you might have 4 or 5 major players have the coronavirus and they're out. Games being canceled. So it's almost like it's still watching practice or something, and like I'm having a hard time really getting into it. It's like, for instance, you know, next week when Notre Dame plays Clemson, but their star quarterback is not going to play because he's got COVID, then why watch it? It's like it won't be the same. And yeah, Notre Dame will probably beat the number 1 team, but does that really make them the number 1 team? It's like, I don't, you know, it just is not the same.
It's not, and I'm the same way, Tim. I am not really keeping up with it. I mean, you know, it's just it's weird right now, and you know, part of me thinks, should they even be playing right now? I mean, with the cases spiking like they are. I mean, because here's the thing, we knew it was going to get worse right now just because of the cold weather and everything, and it's getting worse. And so it's like, should they even really be playing right now? I don't know. But, I mean, they're trying to. I guess good on them for that. But, I mean, like you said, it leads to these huge gaps in the schedule between teams and all sorts of weirdness, and it's just hard to keep up with.
And you know, it's not the same when you're, especially college football, when you're watching somebody play at home like LSU and there's this piped-in crowd noise that's not real. You know, it's like LSU is a rocking stadium. I love to watch them play at home, and it's not the same. You know, it's like, oh, that's, you know, they take that off a 1995 game. It doesn't even match what they did, or, you know, it's just so bizarre.
Oh, and Matty Moe says, congratulations for Tampa Bay for winning the Stanley Cup. That's like just jabbing a knife in my back, man. I mean, come on. We should have. I really wish we could have won. We're the second best hockey team this year. But, you know, we were so injured, Tim. We had so many guys hurt. The Dallas Stars did. And, you know, we couldn't do it. I mean, we won. We should have won as many games as we did with the players that we had, as many players as we had injured. I mean, we're lucky that we pulled out as many as we did. But good on Tampa Bay. They were the better team, and our injuries just caught up with us. But here's the thing is that they've re-signed a lot of the players. They re-signed Heiskanen, which is like our quarterback, getting into football, our goalie, and so, you know, we've our Hudobin. But they, you know, we re-signed a lot of the players that we had, and so I feel confident that Dallas Stars will be good next year or this year. I guess this coming, you know what I'm saying. But you know, it was really disappointing that we couldn't come back with the cup. So.
Well, here's what's funny. You know, the NBA playoffs just ended, and now it's time for the training camps to start. Like, it's almost time for basketball. It is basketball.
That's what I'm saying. It's time for hockey too. Basically, we're about to start off hockey season.
And so, what are they going to do? Are they going to go ahead and start again, or are they just, you know, or is this? Yeah, I don't know. It's such a weird.
I'm kind of. My vote is for another short season. I mean, you know, because I understand they need to fulfill their TV contracts and everything, but I think they should do another short season. So we'll see. I don't know. But anyway, cord cutting talk real quick, Tim. I don't know if you noticed, but T-Mobile has started offering a live TV streaming service. It's called TV Vision. It's only for T-Mobile customers, but the pricing is pretty good on it. So I don't know what you're using now for live TV streaming, but if you're looking for an alternative and you're a T-Mobile customer, you might check out T Vision, is what they're calling it. Okay. So they have a $10 plan that includes Discovery. So if you're looking for the Discovery Network's channels, which is pretty cool. So, but good stuff if you guys are looking for that. So again, it's called T-Vision by T-Mobile. If you're a T-Mobile customer, check it out. That's live streaming. It may be better. It may be a better deal than what you get with like Hulu with live TV or YouTube TV or some of those other ones. So they do have some cheaper plans, it seems like. So just a heads up. And Tim, talking about movies, TV shows, anything you've been watching in your Netflix queue or whatever?
I'm trying to think. I started watching. There was a Haunting of Hill House or something like that. This is the sequel to it. It's supposed to be like a haunted house mansion, and I can't remember the name of it. It's anyway, it's one of those shows. I started watching it. It's kind of interesting. Other than that, it's just been usual watching some Shark Tank, and it's still my favorite show. I still love to watch it. And I haven't had much time. I've been working, when I'm not at Dairy Queen, I'm out working on in the arcade factory. So
no, they got, well, I mean, maybe with, Thanksgiving coming up and some things, you'll get a little bit more time, so.
Maybe so.
But, so I've been watching a couple. I've watched, I think I mentioned this I think I mentioned all these last month, but, I mean, some of them have finished up. The Vow, I watched on HBO Max. That was about NXIVM and the sex cult and all that kind of stuff. So, they finished that. They're doing a season 2 of that. But, so the first season is basically the story told from, like, the survivor's point of view. But they're teasing that the second season is going to be from the leader's point of view. Which is interesting. So you get to both sides of the story kind of thing. I also finished up watching AP Bio on Peacock, which is one of my shows. And Tim, the last episode of AP Bio of this season on Peacock is freaking hilarious. Golly, if you don't even watch like any of the rest of it, even if you've never watched AP Bio before, watch that episode. It is super, super duper funny. Golly, I really enjoyed AP Bio. They did like a short 8 episode season on Peacock for that, and it was really funny. And you can watch all the seasons on Peacock if you have it. I don't know which ones are free and which ones you have to pay for, because right now I'm on my trial, but AP Bio is really funny. Try it out. I finished The Boys season 2. Last time I think we talked, I was waiting for them to finish releasing them all before I did. I watched them all. Fantastic. Love The Boys. And it's graphic just like the first season was. So if you're not into, graphic depictions and language, don't watch it. But I really did enjoy it. It was fun. And then, Tim, the one that's on right now that I'm going to wait until they release all the episodes is The Mandalorian. Tim, have you seen The Mandalorian?
Oh, yeah. No, honestly, I haven't seen it.
You're a Star Wars fan, you should watch it.
I know it. I need to watch it. That's what I'll watch.
Yeah. So if you're a Star Wars fan, you should watch it because it is really, really good. And I mean, it's maybe the only reason to have Disney Plus at this moment, unless you just want to rewatch old movies or old TV shows, because it's really the only original that they have that's really worth watching, in my opinion. They have some other original content, but really, it's the only one that's worth watching. So I mean, again, Mandalorian is fantastic, and like I said, I'm going to wait till they've released it in full. Because Tim, here's what I want to do. I want to support the binging of these shows, and so like I'll let them release all their episodes, and then I'll binge them all, and I'm very happy with that. Tim, I don't know if you heard, but Quibi is shut down, which was supposed to be like the streaming service for your mobile phone, where it would do vertical and horizontal video. Was started by Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman, former HP executive, and nobody signed up for it, and it was too expensive. But they did have some shows that were kind of interesting on there. I don't know what's going to happen to some of those, but and then Tim, I don't know if this has to be said, because it seems like everybody knows it by now, and we've said it a million times, but you should watch Cobra Kai if you haven't seen it yet. If you're one of the few that still are waiting to watch Cobra Kai, you should just watch it, because it's still fantastic. And Tim, I think season 3 coming out at the beginning of 2021.
Yep, I can't wait.
Yes, me either. Golly, I'm ready for it. YouTube Punk says X-Men, the animated series, is on Disney Plus, which it is, and I loved it. And I watched all the episodes during the actual Fox run, so it's been a while since I've seen them. I may go back. But anyway, back to Cobra Kai, Tim. Cobra Kai was excellent.
Yeah. Can't wait. I'm going to watch it. You might as well just take a day off work when it releases and just watch them all.
Well, and I don't know if they're going to do a time release or if they're going to do a binge style release with that. Knowing Netflix, they'll probably be binge style. And we know that they've got all the episodes done because they pretty much mentioned that before they sold it, or before the Cobra Kai producer sold to Netflix. So we know that they're done. So, it should be good stuff. But, if you haven't seen it already, watch it now. Tim, is there anything, I heard that Tenet is going to be coming out on Blu-ray in December. And that's the Christopher Nolan film that's only been in theaters up to this point. I want to see Tenet really bad, but I haven't wanted it bad enough to go to a movie theater. So,
Me either. I haven't been.
So I'm going to figure out a way to watch Tenet probably in December sometime because I do want to see it. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan for his work even outside of the Batman series. He had a lot of good stuff. So I was thinking about, there's some documentaries that it seems like there's a lot of documentaries that I've been just kind of watching, but I can't think of any just right off the top of my head. I mentioned a lot of them, I think, last month or the month before last, but there's a lot of documentaries out there that you should watch. It seems like documentary filmmakers are doing a lot right now with the lockdowns and everything to get some content out, so good on them. YouTube Punk says, I heard Tenet wasn't so hot. I don't care. I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. I'm going to see it anyway. So, I mean, if it's okay, then, I mean, that's good, in my opinion. I just like his tone. I like how his movies are somewhat dark, but they always, the cinematography is always great in them. The stories are always pretty good. So, Tim, it's just good stuff. So, but we'll see. Okay, Tim, well, I'm about ready to wrap it up here. You got anything?
No, just like I said, I mentioned it very briefly that my son is in quarantine right now because he joined the Marines. He has to be in there, and we may not get to see him for a while. So if there are any fellow Marines watching, and you got some just the kind of, we can't talk to him. We don't really know what's going on, so that's probably the hardest part, especially on his mother. But it's getting hard on me too. So I hope that if we don't appreciate, it just makes me really appreciate those guys that have served our country and other countries as far as that goes. We are worldwide, who protect and defend others that can't defend themselves, or that don't have the abilities or the things to do. So anyway, just if you're a former Marine, especially, my son is a Marine or will be soon. I'm sure you know what he's going through, entering boot camp starting Monday. So it would be good to him to get out of quarantine, actually get into camp and stuff. So anyway, keep him in your thoughts and your prayers. We appreciate everybody listening again tonight. I think we had a fairly good turnout and a good show. And so thank you, Jonathan, for all that you do. A lot of people don't realize all the hard work that you put in making those slides and everything flow as smoothly as it does. I know it's a live show and it's not always perfect. But
smooth the sandpaper, Tim. Smooth the sandpaper.
Yeah.
But no, on the Marines thing. So I mean, I count myself very fortunate to know a lot of inactive Marines. Is that a good way to say it? Inactive Marines, non-active duty Marines, and I know at least one active duty Marine who is stationed in Hawaii right now. And you'd think that that'd be like the best place to be stationed ever. But the only problem is that you can't call him. The time difference makes it hard to call him, and then him coordinating to get back here is tough as well. So especially with the way that they've been locked down over there. So so I mean it's been. So he's already gone through, he's already stationed where he is in Hawaii and everything like that, Tim. But they've been pretty quarantined up there. So he's obviously not been home in a while or anything like that. And so I mean, just thinking about all those guys that are stationed away from their families, especially with the holiday seasons and COVID and all that kind of stuff going on. Thoughts are with you guys, and thank you guys for doing what you do for sure, and your son as well, Tim. And I'm sure he'll get through it, and he'll be ready to go, and he'll get his assignment somewhere. Who knows where? So.
Yeah, hopefully in Dallas.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll be that lucky, but that'd be great if so. YouTube Punk says, Geeklight says, wish him well. YouTube Punk says, hang in there, Tim. So.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay, well, let's sign off, Tim. Anything else?
No, let's get on.
Okay.
It's time for
It
bed.
it is time for bed. You get some sleep, Tim, and thank you guys so much for being here for the live show. Like I said, just an amazing turnout. We are so grateful to all the people who watched this and spent your the first Thursday of the month evening with us, and we hope to see you next time, Tim. Again, Tim, December episode, gifts will be fun. And we'll do all of the stuff, and Tim will be so much closer to the end of 2020. It'll be amazing. So I don't know how we're going to celebrate 2021. You know, there's not going to be no New York New Year's Eve party or anything like that.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we're all going to be it's going to be a big Zoom party with all of us in our houses or whatever the case may be. But anyway, y'all get some sleep. We'll see you next month. Thanks for joining us. Questions at arcaderepairtips.com if you want to get in touch with us till then. And until then, good night.